OP manager, the network OP manager to monitor APIs and servers. So I want to see what features have been added since the last time this event was held.
Oh, okay. That was a good one actually. What new features have been added since the last seminar? So have you attended the last previous seminars? I'm sure you should have seen me then. Yeah? Okay, then. Thank you. Thank you so much for acknowledging. Can I have someone else from the right? I'll be back with you, sir. Yeah. Someone from the, yeah, from the corner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Chisom. I work with XCMP. We currently use one or two of your products in my organization. I am hoping that at the end of today, I want to see the additional features to the existing ones, as well as the applications that we use. A lot has happened in the technology space. I'm hoping to also see what you're going to showcase. New product solutions that might help with the business.
Okay. As such, if you have to talk about the new products and solutions, we have come up with unified solutions. That's exactly what I can talk to you about. And we have also come up with quite a few interesting products like the application development software, like the app creator, which I'm going to talk about for a while. So that's something which we have come up with. But there are a lot of exciting features which actually helps you to cope up with the latest trends like AI, ML, automation, and so on. So definitely you will have all your questions answered during these sessions. And without further ado, let's get on to the business today. So today I chose this topic, future fit technology strategy for sustainable growth in 2023. So this is the agenda for my session. Sorry. So first I'm going to talk about what happened in the past, not in the past, but what happened in the last couple of years since the COVID started. So I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about 2023, the digital first era, the first year in the digital first era, suggested by Gartner. And then I'm also going to throw light on what should be your guide for future fit technology. Followed by which I'm going to have a brief session on, or a brief explanation on how ManageEngine can cope up with these technology trends. And I'm going to pass on the stage to Solomon, who is the regional sales manager for this region, and he's going to have a few words with you and also introduce the organization as such. So let's get on to business now. We'll first have to talk about those factors which have been affecting business growth. While we are completely aware of this, but it actually makes a point, or rather, it actually gives me, it actually makes me feel that I should actually start with what were the factors which are affecting the business growth in the last couple of years. So the first one is the slowdown and the near to recession scenario. Today we are coming across news articles where the technology giants have laid off their employees. We constantly come across these news, like Meta has laid off 20,000 employees, Google, Microsoft, everybody is actually following in line to lay off their employees. But as such, have we entered into recession? Actually not. While Germany has the fourth largest economy in the world, has announced that they have already gone into recession. So it's just a matter of time that we'll have to check how many other countries are going into recession. The war in Europe, it's almost been 1.5 years since the war started. I still remember it started on Feb 2022, and it's almost 1.5 years now. There has been no end to this, and which has actually disrupted the supply chain. Inflationary pressures. Governments are reeling under inflationary pressures. That's quite evident in the price hike across all commodities. Talk about any commodity, the price has increased. Most importantly, the oil price. The oil price has fluctuated so much in the last couple of years than it used to do in the last 2 decades. So if you see the graph of oil price fluctuation from 2000 to 2020 and 2021 and 2022, the graph is higher on 2021 and 2022. Governments, banks have increased the interest rates, and there has been a lot of exchange rate fluctuations. I'm sure you guys are quite evident of this fact. Nigeria has got this exchange rate fluctuations. Am I right? Yeah? The same thing happened with Pakistan, the same thing happened with Sri Lanka, and quite a few other countries as well. Egypt is also facing the same scenario. COVID resurgence. We do not know what has happened to COVID as such, right? I think everybody is jabbed here. Everybody is vaccinated. Yeah? No? Yes? No? Yes? Yeah, very good. Do you know what effect, what after effects has it done to your body? We don't have an idea. What happens if it is resurgent? What happens if it comes back? So do you think those jabs will still work? We are not aware of that. And I'm hoping that it is not coming back. Yeah? We don't want it to come back. Nobody wants it though. Yeah. So finally, there is some shortage of skills thanks to this digitalization during COVID. There are a lot of technology trends which have been introduced in organizations, but organizations do not have the right skills to maintain those technology trends. And if you look at quite a few countries like Saudi Arabia or UAE, they are coming up with new projects where more resources are pumped in. For example, Saudi Arabia is coming up with this murabba. It's kind of murabba means square, sorry, a cube. A cuboid, I shouldn't say it's a cube, it's a cuboid, which can actually hold 20 Empire State Buildings within it. So they are coming up with ultra-modern infrastructure, and they're going to build a city within that cuboid. And they've also come up with the city, which is 120 kilometers long. If you have seen that, they've already completed like 10 kilometers of 120 miles. So more resources are pumped into these mega projects, which actually leaves the other country with no resources, with zero resources actually. So while these factors have been affecting business, let's also take a look at those factors which have been impacting IT. Do I sound pessimistic with all those factors? No? Yes? Let's talk about those factors which are impacting IT. First of all, there has been a number of increase in cyber attacks. A report said every organization is attacked every 40 seconds. So you see the number of attacks that the hackers are always on job to attack one organization or the other. And the last couple of years, you see the number of attacks that have happened in organizations. You can get a report. There have been more threat actors than it used to be. There is always a pressure to adapt to the cloud. I'm sure quite a few organizations here have moved their services to the cloud, but you also have to know how to mature your cloud strategy. So that's exactly what organizations are focusing on and where organizations are actually lacking behind. There's always been a complexity in handling hybrid infrastructure. When we talk about hybrid infrastructure, we also have to focus on those legacy systems which we have. Today, we do not have this skill or the technical knowledge or the technical experience to change those legacy systems. It's been working on an IBM AIX mission. We do not want to change it because we don't know what goes wrong with those applications, right? Am I right in saying that? There are quite a few organizations which are still using Sun Solaris for their applications. I don't know, I don't even remember when I last used Sun Solaris for any application as such. And there's always pressure for organizations to automate everything. Automate. So what is that you want to automate? Do you want to automate IT processes, business processes? There's always been a pressure on organizations as well as on employees to automate their processes and workflows. And there's always, as you can see, the supply chain disruption due to the war in Europe has increased the IT expenditure. Remote work issues. thanks to COVID, we all are now in an era where we can still work from home. That's a hybrid work environment is what we have. So organizations always have this trouble with maintaining the patches or configuring the assets, the various configurations that you have to do for workstations, laptops, and so on when you work remotely. So these are things which organizations are focusing on right now. And unstructured asset visibility. So today, when you talk about assets, you have hybrid assets. The one on your, the one in your data center, quite a few applications on the cloud. So you probably want to know who is accessing what, when, how. That is something which we are going to focus on today in one of the sessions. And data privacy. That has actually taken precedence over any other compliance today. Talk about security, the first thing that comes to mind is data security. Or if you want to move your services to the cloud, the first thing that you ask your vendor is, how secure is my data? What are the compliances that you have? So these are things which IT has to focus on. So while we have been focusing on those factors which happened in the past, let's actually focus on those factors that organizations have to focus on in 2023. So here are quite a few suggestions or quite a few things that organizations will focus on for digital first priority for businesses. So here we start with sustainability, hybrid workforce, customer excellence, digitalizing operations, ecosystem excellence and data excellence and sovereignty, and finally operational excellence and digital business and resilience. These are terms which are actually quite interesting to hear when it comes to the business side of view. But how does it translate to IT? So here are a few things which organizations have to focus on for the IT priority in the next 12 to 18 months. Enhancing enterprise service management. Today it is no longer IT services management. It's probably something which you have to focus on, enterprise services. To give you some examples here, service management is just not related to IT. All other departments in your organization also provide services like HR, finance, your facilities department, travel desk, and so on. Every other department in your organization provides services to your employees. So how do you extend those service management concepts to these departments is what IT has to focus on in the next 18 months. Driving automation of IT processes with software, AI, ML, and robotic process automation. IT Ops integration, which is a combination of AIOps, NetOps, SecOps, DevOps, and there's AIOps, DevOps, SecOps, and NetOps. And then data analytics, decision intelligence. So today we have so much data on our table. There was a report which said only 32% of the data that is available in the entire world is actually being tapped and used for decision making. You see, in the entire world, it is only 32% of the data has been tapped. So 68% is still remaining, is still unknown. Nobody knows what has happened to this data. So think about your organization. So how do you get the data from various quarters, various sectors, and then what kind of decision are you going to do, or are you going to derive out of the data that is available on the table? So that is what is decision intelligence, which is a combination of artificial intelligence, data intelligence, and business intelligence. Then we have identity crisis. So how is IT going to resolve the identity crisis? Who, what, when, how? Who is accessing what? When is he accessing? Why is he accessing? We also have to talk about those cloud-based applications. Where is he accessing from? All this report is something which we have to talk about when it comes to identity crisis. Automation is just not related to IT processes and business processes. Cybersecurity is also part of IT, so you also have to focus on cybersecurity automation. How do you mature your enterprise cloud strategy? And finally, total health and experience. So how do you focus on the total health of your systems, total health of your employees, total health of your stakeholders? So what I mean here is, say for example, if you have to get a loan from your bank and the bank is not responding to you on time, what do you do? What do you do if the bank is not responding on time? You bang your phone, right? That's exactly what we do. It actually increases your blood pressure because you are in need of money and the bank is not responding to you on time. By the way, I heard that Nigeria has got 75 banks. Is it true? 75 banks. 75? Is it even more than that? Which one? Like there are too many answers right now. I don't know which one to hear, but yeah, more than that. Okay. I think it is the maximum number of banks in any country that any country can have. But how do you deal business with every other bank that you have to? Is it easy to deal? Is it easy to deal with every other bank? Almost yes. No. I don't know. So it's up to you guys. But anyways, so what happens when your customer is not satisfied with the service that you provide? You actually tend to decrease his health. You actually tend to deteriorate his health parameters. So you are also responsible for your customers' health, your employees' health, and your stakeholders' health and experience. The total experience that you provide to your customers, your users, your employees has to be top notch. So that is where organizations have to, or IT has to focus on the next 18 months. So having talked about these, let's now focus on those technology trends that Gartner says organizations have to focus on in 2023. So these are, I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on each of those trends here. The next 10 slides is completely going to focus on each of these. Let's first start with the digital immune system. Are you all immune to bacteria, virus? Yes? Yes or no? I'm like, someone says some, someone says no, someone says yes. What is the answer? As humans, we are supposed to be immune to allergies, to bacteria and virus, right? As and when there is new virus, we get some jabs and then we get immune to those viruses as well, just as we did for COVID. Am I right? The same thing happens with your applications and systems as well. So you probably have to have a digital twin where all your applications and services are replicated, and your applications and services are also prone to diseases like software bugs, attacks, threats and attacks and so on. So if your digital twin is being attacked, the same thing can happen with your production system as well. If your digital twin has a software bug, your production system can also get that software bug. Or if there is deterioration of resources, depletion of resources in your digital twin, the same thing can happen on your production system as well. So how do you go about doing this? That is exactly what is called as a digital immune system. So just as we are immune to viruses and bacteria, the same thing happens with your applications and services. So it actually includes observability, AI augmented testing, chaos engineering, auto remediation, site reliability engineering, and software supply chain security. So all this is part of your digital immune system. What is observability? Is this term new to you? What is observability? Anyone? If you don't know, you can say no. Be honest with me. I'm not going to do anything to you. Yeah? It's absolutely fine. Okay, let's take this. Let's take this example. How do you judge the person sitting next to you? By the way, do you judge the person sitting next to you? Yeah, someone said it right. You observe. What do you observe? You observe his actions. So you understand him. You determine whether the person sitting next to you has got a pure soul, yeah? Everybody has got a pure soul. Everybody is good here. Nobody is bad. So everybody has got a pure soul. So you judge a person based on his actions. So that's exactly what you're going to do for systems as well. You're going to measure the internal capacity of a system based on the external output. That is what is observability. There's a subtle difference between observability and monitoring. Monitoring is reactive. So when something goes wrong, that's when you get alert. Whereas observability, it observes the performance with techniques like AI, ML, and so on, and then it helps you understand what is happening. It helps you determine the root cause. It actually does a predictive analysis and then gives you the report. So you are actually going to do something over observability, that is what is called as applied observability, which includes data observability, infrastructure observability, application, security, and business analytics. That is what is decision making all about. So you remember I spoke about decision intelligence a while ago. So that's exactly what is covered as part of your applied observability. The next one is the AI drizzle. How many of you are familiar with AI models here? AI models? No? So today, there is no such compliance which actually governs your AI models. We do not know what is the risk involved, the security aspect of those AI models, and what is the trust, how can you trust those AI models? So before any such complaints can come into play, let's actually take a look at AI drizzle, which is AI trust, risk, and security. So here I've given you an example which is called as Abzu, which is a pioneer in biomedical field. This is an organization in Norway. I think it is in Norway. I don't remember which country it was. They actually help the customers reduce the supply chain time for delivering medicines. So you can actually take a look at their website. You actually talk to their AI model, which is called as QLattice. This QLattice platform AI model, you can interact with the AI model and get to know how much of your disease is cured based on the interaction that you have with the AI model, as well as with the doctors, as well as with the pharmacists. So everybody is involved in understanding what is going on with the patient, and it tells you how much of the duration is left over for the disease to be cured. It's actually quite useful for those females who have this breast cancer. I'm sorry to use this example here, but this is something which is wide across all countries in the world. So this is something which you probably have to take a look in to see how their AI model works. It's something which you can actually implement in your organization too. The next one, industry cloud platforms. So here we are going to use PBCs, packaged business capabilities. It's kind of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service, or identity as a service, or function as a service. So the concept here is, if there is something which works for an organization in a vertical, all other organizations in the same vertical can use this particular software. Say for example, if Service Desk Plus is useful for oil and gas for one organization, the same Service Desk Plus can be used for other organizations in the same vertical in oil and gas. So that's exactly what Industry Cloud Platform is all about. Platform engineering. So here we are actually going to use the expertise of subject matter experts, freelancers, and developers, and so on. So it provides a curated set of tools, capabilities, and processes selected by subject matter experts. To give you an example here, ManageEngine Service Desk Plus has got applications developed over it. There are quite a few freelancers, developers, and subject matter experts who come together to develop these applications over and above Service Desk Plus. It's available in the marketplace. If you have time, take a look at it. Wireless value realization. Today, we look at wireless as just a medium of communication. Am I right? There is a lot more to wireless today. So how are you going to use wireless for value-added services? To give you an example here, a couple of months ago, we were in Botswana. Have you been to Botswana? No? Okay. You probably have to go there. It's actually quite, yeah. So our partner there has BMW. How many of you have BMWs here? Yeah. So I was like, yeah, he has his BMW, and he actually speeds at 120 kilometers per hour. Yeah. Whereas the actual speed on the roads is like somewhere around 90 or 80. I think it was 80. No, it was at 100. It actually is speeds at 140 or 150. They have speed cameras, and he has a sensor in his car. So as soon as the sensor detects the speed camera, he reduces the speed at the signals, and then he zooms past the signal, and then he again gets it at 150. So this is exactly where the wireless has been used for value-added services. But a wrong example though. Yeah. So you cannot overspeed the limits though. But this was one example which I thought it is actually going to be useful to understand where wireless is heading towards. So you're going to use wireless for value-added services than what it was used for just a medium of communication. This is quite interesting. US Army and Navy is using their own AI model, CEREGO. This AI model, it actually interacts with the students, with the cadets, and then each cadet has his own course material, his course duration. Not everybody will have the same course duration and the course material, because it depends on the individual's capability to understand things, understand the concepts. And for example, if one cadet has got 18 months of training, whereas for the other, if he has got more knowledge and he has got added capabilities, his duration can be just 12 months or even 9 months. So that depends on the individual interaction with the AI model, which is called as Cerago. So that is what we call it as adaptive AI. I love talking about super apps. So let's talk about the next one. So how many of you have used any super app here? Do you know what super app is? Well, if I'm asking you a question, you have to say no, yes. Okay, nod your head. That's more than enough. I can understand you all are tired. Are you? No? Good job. Okay, so there's a super app which is called as WeChat in China. So this app can help you to book a table at a fine dining restaurant. It can help you to say for example, if you have booked a table at the fine dining restaurant and then you have to pay for the bill. The first thing is you first have to decide whether you have to go to the restaurant. So what happens if you go out and then you see that your car has got a flat tire or there's no fuel in the car, then you want to book a Uber or a taxi or whatever it is. So that app allows you to do it. So once you head towards the restaurant, you book the table, and then you see that the bill is actually on a higher side, and then you don't have sufficient funds, and then the app allows you to apply for a loan and then get it approved within 3 minutes. So you can pay the bill, come out of the restaurant, and then you can also send some flowers. You can actually buy medicines from the pharmacy. You can also buy food, or probably you can buy groceries from the department store, and you can also date someone. It's interesting. You want to use it? Give it a try. Yeah, you probably have to give it a try. So that's exactly what is called a super app. So everything into one app. So it's a combination of many apps, which is actually following the principles of composable architecture. So all those mini apps put together in a single one is called as super apps. Then metaverse. How many of you are movie goers here? Everybody loves to watch movies, right? Yeah? So have you watched this movie which is called as Black Panther Wakanda Forever? Yes. Yeah? It's quite interesting. The movie was quite interesting because it won Oscars for the best costume design, right? There were two cities, if you remember the movie, there were two cities, one under the ground and one above the ground. They have actually used metaverse technologies to build those cities. Beautiful cities. You actually have to watch it if you have not. Then, how do you manage those systems which actually help you build those metaverse technologies? So that's exactly where ManageEngine is going to help you out. I've given some examples here. VR chat. I've also given some Sansar, OneDrive. All these metaverse gaming applications, they use NFTs, non-fungible tokens. You can buy virtual assets, and then use them for increasing your cryptocurrency balance. So that's exactly what these examples are all about. You can take a look at it whenever you find time, but once you are into it, you are into it. Honestly, the whole day goes off if you are into the games like Decentraland or Sansar or Wonderer. I spent three full days to complete this slide because I was into the game. This one particular slide, I took 3 full days because I took a look at each of those games. It was actually quite interesting, and then it made me play more, and then I thought I have to come back to finish the slide. Yeah, that's how it is. It's quite interesting if you want to look at it. Finally, sustainable technology. So what is this all about? So you are responsible for the society as well. You are responsible for the community as well. So here, it's a framework of solutions that increases the energy and material efficiency of IT services. A good example here is Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. We call it as DEWA. Every week, they send out an email to me saying that how much of the water resources have I used, how much of the electricity have I used, how do I compare it with a family of similar size, what was my consumption last week, last month, and last year, have I depleted more resources, have I gone less on using those resources, how much am I preserving for my kids, for the future generation. So this is kind of a report which actually is sent to every person who is actually using this facility in Dubai. So that's exactly where we are all supposed to head out towards. So how do we measure the efficiency of energy and material in using those IT services? Was that interesting? Yeah? Thank you so much. So let's move on to the next one, where we are going to focus on your guide for future fit technology strategy. So first and foremost, quite a few organizations I shouldn't say quite a few, almost all organizations have understood the need for moving their applications and services to the cloud. So here, how do you enhance the maturity of your cloud technology solutions? The next one is vendor consolidation. You probably may have multiple vendors for different services and applications and so on. How do you choose a vendor who can offer you all those services? Say for example, let's say if you have routers, switches, and firewalls, you do not want to have a Cisco router and a Nortel switch and a FortiGate firewall, right? You probably want to deal with the same vendor so that it's easy for you to maintain those devices. The same goes with applications and services as well, just as we have in ManageEngine 2. The next slide will talk about what are those products that we have. Then we have this process orchestration. Automation is something which we know, which is quite familiar. But how do you extend those automation concepts across multiple departments, multiple tasks across departments? That is what is process orchestration all about. And then we have zero-touch management solutions. Let me give an example. My dear friend is actually going to talk about this example in one of his sessions. So once you commission a device in the network, it should automatically be picked up by your network management solution or network management software, whatever you use. It should associate it to the respective VAPs. It should also start monitoring the device for its CPU, memory, disk utilization, and so on. And if something goes wrong with this threshold, so it should have an adaptive way of applying the thresholds, meaning that it should understand the peak usage for this week, last week, and so on. Based on the usage, it should actually associate the thresholds. And the threshold is violated, it should raise a ticket in the service desk with the right category, priority, and technician. It should also pick up the firmware upgrades. And once the upgrade is available, it should take a backup of the configuration, and then it has to apply to the device and then restart the device. The entire sequence of activities that you see from discovering the device until restarting the device after firmware upgrade, everything has to be automatic. That is exactly what we call it as zero touch. So there's going to be absolutely no human intervention when something is being added into your network. Security. So we are going to deal with the concepts of zero trust. So don't trust anyone, even your CEO. CEO's laptop. your CEO's devices. The moment it gets connected to the network, you scan it. You're going to do a virus scan. You're going to do a complete scan of all the files and folders that he has. Absolutely, it's necessary that you have to do it, because you're not going to trust anybody within the organization, even the identity of the users. And then data privacy and cybersecurity mesh. So all this is something which organizations will focus on as part of their future fit technology strategy under the security domain. And then we have total health and experience, which we focused on a while ago, and operational excellence in digital transformation. So if you're looking for a vendor who can help you deal with those technology trends, or which can help you manage the infrastructure behind those technology trends, or if you are looking for one-stop shop solution for managing your software applications, managing your applications and so on, or if you're looking for one vendor who can help you offer all those future fit technology strategy, ManageEngine is the answer. So you have solutions from ManageEngine under identity access management, endpoint management, where you manage your laptops, workstations, mobile devices, and so on. Then we have enterprise service management, where I spoke about extending your service management concepts and ITL concepts like incident, problem, change management to other departments. Then we have IT operations for managing your infrastructure, security information and event management to assess your security threats, to mitigate your security threats, advanced IT analytics for decision intelligence, and low-code app development for developing your own software for internal usage. If you are looking for moving to the cloud, or if you want to manage quite a few applications from the cloud, we have cloud-native applications, remote work solutions, if you're in a hybrid model, and if you are into cybersecurity, then you will probably need solutions from ManageEngine across these portfolios like IAM, Identity Access Management, SIEM, Endpoint Security, Network Security, and Data Security. Any questions? Solomon?
So I saw a couple of solutions that ManageEngine offers. So my company has had a bit of going with ManageEngine. But with regards to, perhaps maybe we're not talking to the right teams, but with regards to the IAM solutions, the identity and access management solutions, but since you still talk about it, I just wanted to bring it to your notice that we have been trying to look for a solution that does that, but we don't currently have one in your stack that currently does it, that we know of. So perhaps within the course of this engagement, we'll be able to do that. Also, we've been looking for a certification and I've forgotten what the other one is.
Certification?
Yeah, something that could help us manage digital certificates and check for when they would expire, when they will come, you know. We've also not been able to get that, at least with our engagement. There's a little conversation with endpoints. Is it forgotten the solution?
Yeah, endpoints, so, yeah. We're definitely going to focus on that.
So one more thing. Sorry, can you please help me go back one slide, back to the previous slide?
So sorry.
No, the other slide.
I'm going to do it.
Okay, yes. So also with regards to security, the previous slide showed that ManageEngine is going into the, or is already in the security industry, is a one-stop shop. However, with my experience, it's more towards the monitoring as compared to the security. Or perhaps, you know, maybe I'll get more education on that today.
Sure.
So those are.
Yeah. I wasn't able to understand your first question, but all I understood was just IAM, like.
Oh, with the identity and access management.
System. What was that? What was it?
Yeah. So we've been trying to look for an asset, particularly with the asset management, right? We've been trying to look for asset discovery solutions. You know, we've been looking elsewhere for the asset discovery solutions. We're big on ManageEngine, so I wonder why we're not looking at ManageEngine for asset discovery.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you so much. So the answer to all your questions is available today on all those technical sessions, but I just wanted to ask these two gentlemen, how do you just focus on those questions which I take up? on those technical sessions which I take up rather than the others here. Yeah, you both focus on the same topics which I focus on, but not on the others. So it's something quite interesting though. Yes, sir.
So, when you talk about zero touch, but based on some of the solutions for managing, if I will talk about the service desk, there is no zero touch management in the service desk.
There's no
Zero touch management.
Zero touch.
Zero touch.
Yes.
One of his sessions about zero touch as well. So at the lookout of things, probably you may find it is not available, but once you talk to us, we will show you what you want related to the technology trends. We'll definitely do that for you. Yeah. Okay. So to answer this gentleman's question on IAM, yes, the asset management portion is something which we are going to focus on in the next session. And then you spoke about the endpoint management as well, right? Yeah, certificates. Yeah, digital certificates. Yeah, digital certificates. We have a separate solution which is called as PAM 360. And then you also focused on why is it ManageEngine focusing only towards monitoring and not security? This year, starting this year, our focus is completely on cybersecurity. So we are going to enhance our cybersecurity solutions. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, guys.
But with all these things, we really appreciate the effort that you take in order to be here. And I'm sure that people are still walking in, and we will see a house full of day today. And definitely this is going to be entire 8 hours of learning for you on ManageEngine solutions. So I do not want to take much of the time. But however, while you guys are learning, I just want to take 5 minutes of your time to talk about our roots. So we are coming from a brand called Zoho. And Zoho has multiple divisions, and ManageEngine is one of the division. As you could see there, the distinctive brands that we have is ManageEngine is one of the brands that we primarily focus on all enterprise IT solution softwares for both on-premises and cloud. And Zoho is a separate division that we have which predominantly focus on all application softwares based on cloud like mail, CRM and HR solutions, which is the Zoho people that were to answer your question on that. Banks that you guys have, which doesn't include even the small microfinance banks, but out of that top 32 banks is the list that I have recently checked with, out of which 28 banks uses ManageEngine, including CBN, Zenith and pretty much more. If I take the list, I have to cover the 28, which doesn't take the 5 minutes to cover that one. And with that, as a brand, we do also have global presence with 18,000 employees. And apart from the 18,000 employees, when I'm talking about the global presence, starting from US, China, Japan, Singapore, with that we also have offices in Lagos as a Zoho, and we do have offices in Kenya and South Africa. That's the part of the Africa startups that we have done with. So I'm sure that pretty much we will have our footprints in few other African countries too. And talking about the press releases, we are very much doing on to the data centers that we are expanding. So we have recently, apart from US and Europe, we have specifically had released data centers in UK recently, and in Canada, and for the Middle East at Saudi Arabia. So I'm sure that we will look forward to have something in Africa, and maybe down the line we may have something in Nigeria too. So it's provided definitely those things are going to be achieved with your support and your businesses that we get in the market. And apart from that, when I'm talking about our global presence, we also locally have our partner teams in each regions. So where you have Tranter IT, who's our official distributor currently, who works with multiple partners to enhance all companies, local companies, to be developing in terms of technology and businesses. So that's where we go with. And while AK was introducing me as a regional sales manager, and of course as I do handle the whole of Africa businesses, so from here I wanted to add another face value of ManageEngine to you guys, who would be Srinivas, the country manager for Nigeria. So probably you guys will start to meet him as how you guys meet myself and AK. So maybe he would be your face value of ManageEngine in the region. His name is Srinivas. And you pretty much get to meet him in your offices now and then, because he's ready to knock your doors. So I'll just pass the mic to him to probably say a hi and a word of thanks to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So hi team, good morning. My name is Srinivas and I'm with ManageEngine for about 3 years. So I'm the Senior Sales Executive at ManageEngine. So it's a pleasure to have me here and to meet all of you. So thanks. I look forward to work with you all soon. Thank you.
He's going to be here for the 8 hours, so you can knock him anytime.
Thank you. Thank you, Srini. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you so much, guys, for patiently hearing through this session, which focused on technology trends. We have a slight change in the agenda. I'm not sure how many of you got the chance to look at the agenda online. You did? Yes. Yeah? Great. So, thank you so much. You guys are well prepared. That's quite interesting to know. So once I'm done, I'm going to pass on the stage to my dear friend Vasant. This is his first time in Nigeria, and you guys have to give him an exhilarating experience, as you guys did this to me as well. Yeah, in the past. Yeah, I'm actually waiting to see how good are you guys when he's going to present on the stage. Then followed by his presentation, we're going to break. After which we are going to have 2 sessions, one which is going to focus on endpoint management and the other one is on identity access management solution. After which we are going to break for lunch around 1:30. We'll be back here in the same hall by 2:30 to focus on sessions, to focus on ID operations management followed by security solutions. So that's the agenda here. Thank you so much for being with us and over to you, Vasant. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me fine, right? So, thank you again for the insightful speech, actually. I hope everyone has got some insights more on what AK spoke about, ManageEngine and Solomon are introducing us to you guys about this. So, I'm Vasant. I'm from the product team of Service Desk Plus. I've got nearly half a decade of experience working with ManageEngine Service Desk Plus, and I've done implementations, product implementations, and health checks, demonstrations on to customers across the globe. And as AK mentioned, today is my first day in Nigeria, and it's good to see you guys actually here. Thank you. Coming on to our topic, so today we are going to talk about how to build a service management strategy which can bring business resilience and as well as bring rapid time to value using ManageEngine Service Desk Plus. So how many of you are existing users or administrators of Service Desk Plus? Okay, see a couple of hands actually. Yeah, without any further ado, we can actually proceed on to the session today. So to explain this more, today we have picked up 4 different IT service management use cases. So a health insurance firm who's currently stuck on a ransomware attack. We have a bank who is trying to streamline their onboarding process. And we have an oil pipeline operator who is going to have a change implemented as soon as possible. And we have a data analytics firm who is trying to, or who is actually expecting, a software audit. So, how many of you have lost your sleep for nearly a past decade hearing the word ransomware? Yeah, I hope some of you are hesitant to actually raise your hands, but I can understand from an IT admin perspective. So, how do we prevent a security breach like ransomware attack with preventive incident management? So, what is preventive incident management, or what do we do in an IT as an IT admin or an IT technician on a day-to-day basis? So, you have an incident come in. You fix the problem and close the ticket, right? So do you call that as a preventive incident management? Anyone? No, right? So you call it as a reactive incident management. You react to an incident and you close the problem. Whereas when we talk about security breaches, we should be in a stage where not in a reactive manner, we should actually act in a more proactive manner. So let's quickly jump on to our health insurance firm, so who's actually located in Nigeria, and they have the confidential information about most of the users, nearly 500,000 of the users on the databases. And after the pandemic, as you know, we have started doing work from home and remote work. actually. So the IT team of the health insurance firm has given them a VPN access to all the employees, all the department employees, which they do actually follow proper change management process in upgrading all their patches and servers. But unfortunately, they did not patch an important server rather than money license. Which one is it? The payroll server. So unfortunately, they did not patch a payroll VPN server, which is in a vulnerable version. It's a good nightmare story, right? So it's in a vulnerable version, and the team has not upgraded it right now. So due to this, what happened was an attacker has known about this vulnerable version of the VPN server and got access to the respective VPN server. Let's quickly have a look on how this actually happened. So an associate from the payroll team, on a day-to-day basis, they log into their VPN server to get access to the corporate network. An attacker gets access to the credentials of this respective associate, and the corporate network here is actually compromised. Now, the IT team did not have a necessary tool set or a solution in place did not give them any clue on how to proceed further with this respective attack, which has given more time for the attacker, and an encryption has been done for all the database servers, and the company has got no other go to pay the ransom and get the issue resolved. Yes, now the issue is resolved, but we don't know what has happened, right? Which endpoint was compromised, whose credentials was compromised, we don't know that. So which can actually lead to an attack in the future as well, so for which we need to have preventive incident management or problem management in place. So all these problems has caused this particular issue to happen. So in order to overcome this, what do you think are the chances that the IT team can actually take, or they would have actually thought about to overcome this problem? Anyone? I can give you the mic if you want. Sorry, man? To investigate the root cause of the problem, which can actually happen after the problem has happened, right? But what do we do now? Yeah. So this is like not to happen in the future, right? Now, what happens when a ransomware attack actually happens? It is going to be a ransomware attack, and it's going to be a security breach, and you're going to provide a solution to it. The only way to provide a solution to it is to pay the ransom, which is, again, you can pay the ransom and get it fixed, but your user's data is already in an open network.
What about the backup?
You have the backup, which is your own network, but
Outside the network.
yes, you have backup of your own network. I mean, your application data on your network.
Outside the network.
Yes, but the attacker has already got your data. How can we be sure that he's not going to release it outside the network? Yeah, so that's the main problem here. So your GDPR violations can cause you hefty penalties. So if your user's data is released and say one of your users is going to sue you, you'll have to pay the penalty. The other problem was with the health insurance firms, they were clueless about what to do after this attack actually happened. So this has caused the damage to actually increase more, and they were actually stuck on this because they don't have any standardized procedures to proceed further with this. And they were unable to find the root cause for this respective problem, so which is actually more vulnerable, because in the future you might have the same problem to occur again. So what are the challenges? We know that they were unable to isolate the ransomware attack in the first place. In order to overcome this, the IT team can have a server monitoring tool which would have reported this as an incident, and Service Test Plus has got third-party integrations in place by which you can have a ticket or an incident log immediately after the server monitoring tool raises an incident in its end. So you can use APIs, or you can even send out emails which can have a ticket logged automatically in service desk. The next part was with the ransomware strategy. So the team was not clue, they do not have any clue about how to proceed or what to do after the attack happened. So let us say how the ticket is raised. The ticket has to be flagged, so it can be in any incident, right? You might have any incident come into your IT desk every day, but how do we know it's in an important or in a high priority ticket? So you need not go and have a technician to set it to high priority. So service desk can actually have automations in place using business rules. We can automatically set it to a high priority ticket, assign it to a security operations group, so that the necessary technicians or the agents who are classified to do or work on these kind of actions can pick up and work on it. Send out notifications automatically to the stakeholders so they are aware about it and start working on the ticket immediately. And we can have tasks that can be delegated to the technicians immediately after the incident is created, so that the technicians are sure about what to do when these type of tickets are created in the application. And we do offer third-party integrations like Microsoft Teams. So we know that sending out emails, you have a lot of bulk of emails coming into your inbox, but Teams, I think now after the pandemic, Teams has been another WhatsApp for your work, right? So you can get notifications triggered to your Teams channel, so the group members get notified about it. So you don't have to have any other configurations done to make this happen. And finally, we can have request life cycles. So instead of teaching or educating your technicians or the agents about how to handle these kind of issues or workflows, you can define a workflow or teach service desk plus a process so that the application can do the process automatically. All the technician has to do is follow it. So say for example, you have 10 technicians now, you teach them or you provide them a knowledge transfer on how to do this or handle this kind of issues. And let us say in the future you have say another 5 technicians come into play. Now you need to make sure the proper knowledge transfer is made to the other technicians as well. So you can't keep doing this, right? So instead you can use service desk list to define a workflow so that this workflow is followed by the ransomware tickets automatically. So you don't have your technicians to make sure that it's being followed or not. And the final challenge was with unable to find the root cause. So for which service desk offers you an integrated incident and problem management functionalities, so that from the actual incident you can have a problem ticket created and you can work on it and have this, the solution that is provided to the problem can be published as a knowledge base article, so that in the future your technicians know by the solution article on how to proceed further with this respective issues. So we know what are the tool sets or what are the steps we need to do and how we can do it with service desk list. Let's revisit the same problem again with this idea in mind. So we have an attacker raising a ticket with us, and the suspicious activity has been handled or identified by the respective server monitoring tool. So how do we find that to be an anomalous activity? So let us say, take for instance, in this case, the technician has logged into, the attacker has used the associate's credentials to log in. But how do we know that's an attacker? The attacker gets access to the credentials, but goes to the database server for which the necessary associate or the respective associate will not actually need an access to. So this activity can be considered as an anomalous activity. Immediately it can be created as a ticket in service desk. And once that is done, we have business rules in place to provide automations to assign it to high priority and assign it to the SOC team, security operations team, and notify the stakeholders who can assess the impact. And investigating on the problem, where we delegate tasks to the respective teams to start working on it and provide solutions to it, where the VPN credential of the respective endpoint is identified and removed so that it is not going to be affected, it's not going to affect the actual VPN server. So by that, we know how to isolate the endpoints as well, so because we know which endpoint has actually gone into the problem using our server monitoring tools information, and initiate a root cause analysis with problem management functionalities offered by Service Desk, as KV articles, so that the IT team are aware about it when they create a ticket in the future. So let's quickly have a demonstration on this with Service Desk. Let me show you that. Breach created right now, but I do have a demonstration ticket in my hand where a ticket has been logged by a server monitoring tool, and we have the information about the anomalous activity. And as you can see here, the ticket has been automatically set to the priority as high and assigned to the SOC team. This is because of our business rules functionality. So based on a condition, if the condition is matching, you can perform an action on the ticket, which is an automatic action. You don't have to wait for someone, a technician or an agent to do these actions. So it's a single configuration. You don't have to do multiple configurations for these automations to actually be happening. And once the ticket is logged, as a technician, they can go over it and start, working with it just by clicking on the transitions. So I don't have to necessarily do anything else. Just start with big, analysis in my end, as in the offline, and I can do the updates here on the actual ticket. And Service Desk is intelligent enough to navigate the technicians to the right tickets. The right actions. So this is actually done using the functionality called request lifecycle. So where you can define a workflow, and each status of the ticket, like say from open to on hold till closed, we can have transitions in between, by which you can actually define what actions it has to do. So even before the transition happens or during the transition happens, do you want to mandate certain fields? Yes, you can do it. And you can even perform actions to it, like how we saw for business rules. We have that for request lifecycle as well. So you can assign it to the respective SOC team, or even actually do some other actions to even set it to a priority or to a group, etc. And even after the transition, you can notify the stakeholders about the notifications that can be triggered with it. So instead of using the default notifications what we have got, you can use the request lifecycle notifications to trigger custom notifications as well. And this can be done after the transition is actually happening. So we have the incident logged here, and we can actually do our transitions. The technician can actually do the transitions directly from the actual incident. Say the moment the ticket is closed, from the actual ticket, from the actual incident, you can have a problem ticket created which can be linked to your incident. And it can have multiple incidents linked to it as well. So I do have an existing problem record. So the incident subject and the description and some basic details about the incident is all automatically passed over to your problem record. So from the actual problem record, you can have tasks populated for your technicians to work on, and they can start analyzing and providing their analysis, and also providing root cause for the respective problem, and provide the symptoms also which they have actually identified as part of their analysis. And all your associated incidents is also visible from here, so you don't have to necessarily go to each and every incident to have a look at what has happened, or to have it linked to the actual problem. You can assign it here to the actual problem record. And let us say as a problem owner, so say some technician actually takes ownership of this respective problem. If you want to communicate to the actual incident technicians and requesters, you can do that from the actual problem record. You don't have to go to each and every incident. Just click on notify incident requesters. It is going to populate all the requesters' email address. You can send out notifications from here. And by the time when you have a problem closed, you will have a solution article published for your users, for your technicians, and can be published for your users as well. So you can have a solution article published likewise, and this solution article, your technicians, let's say you have a new incident in future, and it's not necessary that your technicians have to come to the solution articles to search for it. Service desk can automatically suggest solution articles to the technicians from the resolution tab. So if it is a similar kind of incident with the subject and the description, service desk can automatically suggest solution articles for them to resolve the issue. Yeah. So that's what with our health insurance firm on proactive incident management. Let's quickly jump on to our onboarding experience. So how many of you, I think many of you are from IT team, and how many of you are actually sure that you're providing a seamless onboarding process, a user onboarding process? We do have challenges, right? May I know, like, any one of you, I think someone's from ITSM, so you saw yourself, ma'am. So are you sure that, what are the challenges that you have in a user onboarding process? Anything that you can list out? Okay, let me give you some hints. So the information, what you get from your HR, is it right on your Active Directory as well? Are we maintaining the same data of the users on both the HR system and as well as with the Active Directory? You might end up with discrepancies in a lot of time, right? So today we are going to talk about how we can actually seamlessly perform a user onboarding process using enterprise service management in service displays. And we have started a hiring program. It's not just 1 or 2 people, they are going to hire 50 to 100 people at the same time. And you know how complex this is going to be, right? So Zilka actually follows a usual user onboarding process where you have an HR who's actually making an entry on the HR management system about the user. The HR manager is actually approving it and requesting various teams about what the employee needs. And it's not that just IT team is involved in providing a user onboarding experience. Yeah, it involves HR, IT, and the facilities team as well, right? And as you know, after the pandemic, there has been a trend where work from home and hybrid, the current trend, and work from office. Still, people prefer working from office as well, right? So which has been the preferences for the recruits. So people love to have options, and the companies have no other way to provide these preferences for them to choose on how they want to start with. So based on the mode of work the recruits need, the activities that are done by different teams varies. When it comes to work from home, IT technicians have got a overhead, right? So you will have to provide the laptops, provide the necessary softwares, and also provide remote sessions to set up the laptop and provide an induction program on how to use it, best practices. Whereas when we talk about the work from office and the hybrid mode, the facilities team and the HR team has got more activities to be done. So where they should make sure proper social distancing practices are followed, vaccine and induction programs that has to be done offline. So this is more like an usual process, right? I hope everyone actually follows the same set of process. Now what is complex here? So it is not just 1 or 2 people that is getting onboarded. It's like I told you, they are expanding rapidly. So 50 to 100 people at the same time, and needed to provide all these functionalities or activities to them, and it's going to cause confusions, right? So the initial challenge what we have is with the data. We need to make sure, if we make sure the data is correct, then half of your problem is actually solved. right? Because you know what the user needs, you know the basic user details, and it is going to be something intact with all your records, IT records or HR records. So for that, Service Desk Plus offers request templates in which you can define fields and get the information what you need from your HR about the users, and as well as you can mark some of the fields as personally identifiable fields, so that if the respective recruit actually leaves the organization, those fields get automatically blank or even encrypted, so that you don't store any of those information if the user is actually talking in a GDPR perspective. And we need to have a standardized onboarding process. Don't you think that every team should have a standardized onboarding process? So this can be achieved with, we know about request lifecycle. We saw that on our previous example, where we can define the process within Service Desk, and it can be followed by the onboarding ticket. And we spoke about tasks, right? Defining tasks for the technicians to actually work on it. Whereas now we need to have dependencies created between tasks. So it is not that only after a laptop is provided, you can actually work on, a technician can work on installing softwares, right? You cannot have a task to install softwares in the first place triggered, after which a laptop can be provided. So you need to make sure a dependency between these tasks are proper, so that your technicians actually follow them. And for the facilities team, the major concern is about allocating space, workspace for the new recruit, which we can achieve it with space management functionality, and lack of communication between the teams. So we have IT, HR, and facilities team who is going to actually work on the onboarding process. Now, let us say IT is actually using a help desk tool, help desk software, but the facilities team are still using the mailbox to raise a ticket or handle their requests. Will that not be causing any confusions? You will lose your communication between the teams automatically, so it's going to cause confusions. So Service Desk offers enterprise service management functionality, where you can have your IT ITIL's best practices that you follow for IT extended to the other departments like HR and facilities. Or even you can define around 50 type of instances within the same installation. You don't have to install different applications. With the same installation, you can have different portals, and each portal can have their own set of automations, workflows, etc. So they act like a different application, but not on different installation. It's going to be on the same application setup. So the maintenance that you do for enterprise service management setup is very less when you compare that with separate autonomous application installations. And we do have approvals that can be triggered within the tickets, so that, say for example, if a new recruit needs a laptop and you need to get your IT manager approval, you don't have to necessarily actually do that after the ticket is created. You can do that automatically immediately after the ticket is created. You can have an approval sent to your IT manager. And we do have functionalities. So with Microsoft Teams integration, you can actually do this approvals also from your Teams window. You don't have to necessarily log into Service Desk Plus to do that. And even using Zia, an AI assistant, you can actually just reply back to the approval email to do the approval action. Let's quickly have a demonstration on how this can be done within Service Desk. Options. And I do have a ticket already logged for a user onboarding ticket within the HR help desk. So as you can see here, the information about the user is automatically populated here after the ticket is created. The moment the ticket is created here, we can have automations done in Service Desk in such a way that a ticket is created on your IT help desk. So from your enterprise service management portal, you can switch to your IT help desk. If you are a technician, then you can view that ticket directly from the IT help desk, which can have their own set of automations and notifications triggered. So the ticket in the IT help desk will have the same information, but as you can see here, all the information what the HR wants need not be passed on to the IT team, right? IT team shouldn't actually need access to their payroll access or the cost center. So you can actually define what information has to be passed on to the IT team as well, so that you have the confidential information staying with you, the HR, on the portal and not being passed on over. And a ticket can be actually logged on your facilities help desk as well, which all these tickets can be viewed, the status of the ticket can be viewed from your HR help desk. So you know who is handling this respective ticket and who is responsible for it and in what status currently the ticket has been put on. And when we talk about tasks, we spoke about tasks in the previous example where we define the tasks, but we can define dependencies also within the tasks. So if a ticket is created, the task is going to be following this workflow. So your request is following a workflow using request lifecycle, and your task is going to follow a workflow using your task dependency feature. So only after the work schedule is actually done by a technician, the offer letter will be dispatched. So your task is actually populated only based on when the previous task is actually done. So task dependencies help you in that case. And when we spoke about actually space management for the facilities team, your facilities team can actually define spaces, your campuses of your organization, the building structures and floors. Each structure or entity can have their own information about how many, what are the amenities the structure has got and how many people it can allocate. So this information can be actually viewed from the space management functionality on your facilities instance. So your facilities team will actually be beneficial from that information. So let us quickly jump on to our next use case. So we saw about two important thing about incident and onboarding or a service request with onboarding and handling the proactive incident management functionality. Now, how many of you have or do not like doing change management? Say if you're going to upgrade a server or you're going to actually do some changes to an employee record, do you follow creating a change record and getting it approved? No? Yes? Yes? You do it? Okay, so that's a good practice actually. That's good to know. So, what happens when you want to actually, let's say, you on a day-to-day basis you create a lot of change records and you wait for that to be approved and get it implemented and so. But if you want to rapidly do a change, let us say you need to patch a server or in a more rapid manner, do you think that can be done with the change management process what you follow? Sending it for approval, wait for your CAB members to have a meeting, and then your change manager then approving it, and then your implementer validating the approvals and then doing the implementation activities? No? So we have a same use case here, a zero-day vulnerability. So how many of you are customers of Service Desk Plus? I think a couple of you raised your hands. I hope you would have heard about this term from us in the recent, one of the previous versions had this problem and yeah, we did provide a fix for it. The same way, we have an oil pipeline operator who is actually using an on-premise enterprise resource planning application, and the vendor for the respective application has introduced or say released a fix for a vulnerability, and this vulnerable version is a zero-day vulnerability, which means like it has to be patched immediately. You don't wait for it. You don't wait for the weekend. It has to be done immediately. So the vulnerability is actually more dangerous in such a way that it can lead to ransomware as well. So the team has to be very quick to actually do this or implement this fix. If they don't do it, the attacker can get access to their corporate network, which can lead to an oil pipeline shutdown for a majority region. So what can be done? So the team decides to follow a standard change management process, right? So we have a notification that is sent from the vendor of the ERP application. A request for change is raised, and since they do not have an emergency change workflow, the cab members have been forwarded with this change request for their approval. Some of the cab members are leave or not available, which causes a delay, and this gives more time for the attacker to gain access to the network. After the approval, the team did actually patch it, but they were not patching the entire endpoints which may be affected by this vulnerability. So after which, when you upgrade an on-premise application, you know that you need to shut it down to do the upgrades, right? And if you don't communicate that to the users who actually uses the enterprise application, then what happens? Your incidents, your queue is going to be flooded with incidents when you come up in the next morning. So we need to actually have a communication that is sent out, but they did not send it out. And finally, an attack takes place and causing a total confusion within the organization, right? So we know what actually went wrong with the previous slide. So let's move on to the next one. So what happened initially was they did follow a standard change process. Instead, they should have followed an emergency change process to handle this in a more effective manner. So for that, we need to have a dedicated request for change template that is for handling emergency changes, and a workflow that is associated to it, which can handle it in a more effective manner. And ECAP, so not the normal cap, the emergency cap members has to be populated so that they do the approval immediately. A change workflow that can handle these kind of changes in a more rapid manner. So for Service Desk Plus actually offers you to create change templates, define ECAP members who can actually have the approvals done immediately, and have workflows that can be associated with these templates. Visibility over endpoints. So Service Desk do have IT asset management coupled with it, so which can be involved with your IT service management functionalities. So the change request can have the assets that are going to be involved in the change request automatically populated, so that you know what are the endpoints that will be affected by this respective change. So the visibility over the endpoints should have given them an idea of what are the endpoints that has to be patched, which they missed out. Failure to communicate downtime. So that is the other problem with the users, right? They did not get the communication about the patching that is going to be done, which has led to incidents being populated. So within Service Desk, you can have notifications and announcements done from the actual change request, so that your users are aware about these type of changes, so that you don't have any surprises the next morning with a lot of incidents in place. So let us revisit our story with the options what we have got with Service Desk Plus. The moment the ERP vendor sends out the notification about the zero-day vulnerability, an RFC is logged. The request for change is then sent for an ECAP approval. The ECAP is rapidly approving the change, and immediately after this is done, it is implemented with high priority using our the emergency change workflow and templates. And the employees who uses the ERP application are notified about it using the announcement functionality. And a notification is sent out to the stakeholders so that they can do a post-implementation review on it. So whereas your normal change, you will do a submission, after which you'll have to plan for it, then approve it, and then do the implementation. So, which cannot be followed for our emergency change what we have now. So let us quickly have a demonstration on this, on what service desk can offer. You can see that the normal change, if you are going to raise it, you have all the fields that are populated here that has to be filled up. And for an emergency change like what we have right now, we cannot actually fill up all these fields, right? So we can have a template, an emergency change template, just got minimal number of fields, just put up the information about, the basic information about what the change is about, and have a change logged immediately. The moment the change is logged, it is going to skip the planning stage, and in the submission stage you just mention about what are the people that are going to be involved in the change and how much time it's going to take for the change to be completed. And immediately after the submission stage, you don't wait for the planning stage, it moves on to the approval stage where our ECAB members approve it, and then to the implementation stage because it has to be implemented as soon as possible. So all these is actually manipulated with your change workflow. So we have a dedicated change workflow for handling emergency changes so that it actually, how we saw for request lifecycle, for request management like the incident management and as well as the service request management, we have the same kind of workflow available for change management where approvals can be automatically pre-populated so that when the change lands on the submission or the approval stage, the necessary people are notified about it, and immediately it follows a workflow to move into the implementation stage and also send out custom notifications to your stakeholders like your CIO, your CEO, so you don't have to necessarily involve them in the change, but just notify them about the change that is going to be done, and finally have a post-implementation review that can be done directly from the actual change record. So what are the topics what we saw right now were about IT service management, right? Where the cost for a company or the money that plays in is actually indirectly affected. Whereas, where do you think money actually affects in a more direct manner? That is from an IT perspective. It deals with assets, right? So handling your IT assets in a more effective manner and software licenses in a more effective manner actually have an effect on your budget. So we need to make sure how our software licenses are managed in a more effective manner within service displays so that we don't spend more on your licenses. So our data analytics firm, who is actually expecting a software audit because they have recently acquired a startup. So data analytics firm already follows a proper software asset management, but they acquiring a startup, so you cannot expect a startup to actually have a proper software asset management being done. So which actually triggers a software audit? Can anyone tell me like for what reasons a software audit gets triggered from a third-party organization? Anyone know about BSA? I've heard about the term BSA. No? Okay, I hope you guys are lucky because they're called as Business Software Alliance. So what they do is, it's a group of companies, it's a group actually, they actually are formed with a group of companies like Microsoft, Salesforce, all the huge software vendors. There might be whistleblowers within the companies who actually, say if they are fired from their organization, they trigger or they can actually raise a complaint within BSA, and BSA will actually initiate a software audit. They get the money and provide it to the vendor like Microsoft and Salesforce and get a settlement for them for doing this audit. So, and not only that, whenever there is a public, so whenever your company or any other company does acquisition, acquire a new company or startup, it is a public notice, right? You actually release it in press or on your social media handles. Even this can have the BSA initiate, a software audit. So likewise, we have a data analytics firm who is actually expecting a software audit to take place, and say if they're not compliant with the license agreements of the software vendor, guess what? You're going to pay a hefty penalty for it. And what are the other ways they can actually rationalize their IT budgets to use your underused software licenses, right? So say you have a marketing team, not everyone will need access to Adobe Photoshop. And say you have 10 people in your marketing team, not the 10 people are going to work on Photoshop. And let us say you have a new recruit come in. You might actually get an underused license and allocate it to the new recruit, right? Have you heard of the parking lot model? The same concept actually. So you have a parking lot in a mall or in the hotel as well. So you have the same parking lot, but it's being used by different cars. So it's not like you have every lot built for every other car that comes in. The same logic applies to your software licenses as well. So you need to make sure you are utilizing your software licenses in a way that it's being equally distributed and you're not buying more. And then our next problem comes in discipline in purchasing and spending patterns. So we need to follow a discipline in actually buying software licenses. Let us say you have 10 people in marketing and you're getting say around 50 software licenses for Adobe Photoshop because you're expecting more people to come in. That is not the right way to handle it, right? So you're spending more than what you actually need. So all these actually come under our compliance. So we should make sure we are compliant with our software licenses. So in order to actually get the software information of your users, we need to actually scan or perform an inventory scan on all your IT assets that your users have got, by which Service Desk offers you an agent that can be installed on all your users' machines, by which you can scan them and have the asset added as an inventory, an IT asset in Service Desk. The software licenses can be populated based on the scanned software's list what we get. So we know how many installations of Adobe Photoshop or Microsoft Word is available when we do an asset scan. So you might actually buy the same example, right? You might actually buy this, the Adobe Photoshop license because you are in an intention saying that they are going to use it. But how can we know that they are using it or not? So software metering helps you in that way to know whether the software is being used or not in the first place. So if they don't use it, then we don't need the license at all, right? We can uninstall the software and get the license revoked. Let's quickly have a demonstration on this. So an asset that is scanned by an agent of Service Desk Plus will have these information populated. The basic information about the hardware information about the asset is actually fetched. And the software information, the installed softwares on the respective machines is also fetched. Along with it, we can have CMDB relationships populated so that you know what relationship this respective asset has got with the other entities of your organization, so which can prove the criticality of the asset. And the history information you will know about what changes have been done to the respective asset. So from the previous scan and the current scan, and also if there is a manual edit to it. And the financial information, we do offer a purchase management functionality where you can have purchase requests and POs created, which can be directly associated to this respective asset. So you know how much you spent for getting this respective asset into your organization. So regarding the softwares, so all those softwares what we saw on the respective asset is actually populated here under the scan softwares list, where you can get the number of installations and the purchase license for it, and also the compliance type for it. So based on the licenses that you add, you will have these information populated automatically, and you will have a dashboard by which you can find out whether how many softwares are, what type of softwares you have, and how many are under licensed and how many are compliant and over licensed. So this information is also populated, and with the latest version of Service Desk, you can have software metering also populated, done from the reports, the software summary, where you get the information about the rarely used software, so which can help you in deciding how many licenses to be purchased for your future preferences. So I think by this we're done with the IT service management or managing and service displays features and functionalities. Any other questions that you have got, not just related to what we discussed, even if you have something else, Yeah. Yes, sir.
My question has to do with the workflow.
Yes.
When you are assigning a ticket and you do the workflow on a technician, and maybe there is an incident that happened and the ticket has been sent to a technician, and you have built matrices based on the priorities of such cases, and the technician is not around, does he have the automation to reassign, to another person if the technician is not around to take up the incidents that have been sent to him? Again, when we are talking about the change management, does he have any form of release and deployment processes?
I didn't understand your last question, sir. The change management?
Change management, does he have any release and deployment process? Like, when we are talking about change management, let's say a certain switch is not working, and within that change management, you need a release and deployment management. Does it?
Yes.
Does that solution have that?
Yes, sir. We do have release management in place. On the actual change request, you can have the initial, the change, information about the change populated, have it approved, and on the implementation stage, you can directly have a release record created. Oh, yeah, one more question.
So again, within the workflow of change management, when you are trying to assign cases based on whether it is a standard, normal, or emergency change, does it have a way where you can a standard a normal change can become an emergency change? There are cases like that. Like it can become an emergency change, and then you can auto.
Yes, we can do it. So based on, we saw about the workflow. So based on the type of change that you create, we can associate a workflow to it automatically. So we do have feed and form tools for this purpose, a feature by which you can make the form dynamic. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you so much. So for organizations that already have the AD manager, is there an opportunity to probably get an upgrade to Service Desk Plus? One, and then if you specifically need the module for the change manager, does it come with a package or you have to subscribe for it specially again?
Okay, so yes, you can actually buy Service Desk Plus as a separate product, and change management comes in our enterprise edition of Service Desk Plus, which has got the entire IT service management and the IT asset management capabilities to it.
Okay.
So you can actually use change management in an enterprise edition.
Thank you.
And answering other, to additional point, if you have AD Manager Plus, we do have the inbuilt integration with AD Manager Plus. So if you have a user onboarding request, it can automatically trigger an action in AD Manager Plus to create a user account in AD, and that can be done from Service Desk Plus. You don't have to necessarily do this action from AD Manager Plus or to the the native AD.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I said I've listened a lot on access management, talking about the management point on slide 3. I think I saw an option saying remote work. The user can also work from home, I presume. So can I see a demo that demonstrates how I've been accessing my devices when I'm here, um, to also be able to also like an overview on daily basis to see what my users have been doing all over the day. So can we have a demo that demonstrate that? If it's an option.
So correct me if I'm wrong, you would like to know whether we can scan or inventory an asset if they are, it's not connected to your internal network.
Okay, yeah. So what I mean is that I saw an option, remote work.
Okay.
And I've been waiting to see a demo to demonstrate how my inventory, how my network devices, let me presume, can be integrated to this ManageEngine platform.
Yes, so network devices in the case you're talking about routers and
Yes.
switches, etc., right?
Yes.
Yes, we can actually scan them. So unlike your workstations, you cannot have an agent for scanning routers and switches. It has to be credentials, so you can configure SNMP credentials or your network credentials to scan them into services plus. So let me quickly show you that. So you can provide the device name or the IP address, specify what type of machine it is, and have a credential to scan them into service displays.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. That's one answer.
Good day, everyone. So, in my organization, I'm admin person in service desk, and we're having issues with the technicians. Some technicians, they always complain they have more tickets to the others. So how can that be monitored or be seen? Fine, we can see how many tickets each technician gets for the day or for the week or for the month, but how does the tickets route to each other, like the process?
So, may you know like how the tickets are being worked on right now? Are you manually picking up the ticket? The technicians are picking up the ticket and working on it, or is it automatically?
No, the system routes the tickets to the technicians.
So you route the technicians like manually, right?
Yes, the manager is service desk.
So we have a feature called Technician Auto Assign here. As you can see on the screen, the Technician Auto Assign feature can assign the tickets based on two different models, round robin or load balancing. So round robin goes in the way that technician A gets the first ticket, and then the technician B, and then the technician C, and so on. It doesn't consider the load of the technicians. Whereas in your case, as you said, the concern was more about some technicians getting a lot of work, right? So I can understand that. For that, you have load balancing in place. So if you choose load balancing, based on the load of the technician, the tickets are assigned. So technician A has got, let's say, 5 tickets, and technician B has got 3 tickets. The next 2 tickets that comes in is assigned to technician B and not to the technician A. So unless and until the load is balanced, the technicians don't get the tickets. Yeah. So only those technicians who have the lesser load will get the tickets. And it's not the only way by which you can automate ticket assignment. It can be assigned via various automation features like business rules. We saw about request lifecycle, etc. So which is a possibility. So
them which will help you assign tickets automatically to technicians. Yeah. Field and form rules, business rules, category technician assignment, technician auto assignment. Yeah, all this is possible. Yeah. Okay, so one last question for the session, please. Sorry, sir, we're just running short of time. So one last question here. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So my question, I have a bit of questions. First question is for escalating tickets from one team to another team. So say for instance, initially the ticket goes to hardware team, and peradventure hardware could not resolve that issue. Then I want to automatically cascade to software or network team. Solution does it give that automatic flexibility? That's one question. Second question, same on this same topic is I want to be able to see the time, the turnaround time per team at the end of the whole scenario, because when I'm doing an audit, I want to know at what point would drop the ball. Is it from the network team, hardware team? Same on that same ticket. So I want to be able to see a report that shows the time it took hardware to delay that ticket by the time it cascades to the other teams. I want to see that report.
Yes.
Does it give that flexibility?
Yes, sir, we do have. So we do have a reporting functionality inbuilt within Service Desk, and within each tickets we do have time analysis as a tab, so you can find out how much time a ticket spent on each and every technicians, and as well as the specific team as well. And also answering your SLA, I mean the when SLA is breached, you want the ticket to be automatically reassigned to a different team. Yes, that is a possibility as well within our SLA configurations.
Yeah, so will my timer start counting? So if, for instance, the SLA for the ticket is about 2 hours, and after that, the ticket connected to the next team, will that time start counting all over from the beginning, or no, it continues the previous time?
Immediately after the ticket is created, the SLA timer is going to start, and if you're going to keep the ticket on pause, on hold, it's going to wait, it's going to stop the SLA timer in that case. And it's going to be running only after it's move on to in progress or an open status.
So what I mean is, if it moves to the next step, will that counter start itself, or that 2 hours? No, of course, because the SLA has elapsed for 2 hours within the first step. The second thing that takes up that request, will they have the possibility of still to start by 2 p.m. and by 4 p.m. SLA has already elapsed, and now that goes to software team. Software team now takes up that issue at 4 p.m. Would they have a new SLA attached to it, or the time still continues to count?
It's going to be the same SLA, because if you think in a user's perspective, the time the user created the ticket is 2 p.m., right? So there can be problems within the IT team, but as for the user, he or she created the ticket at 2 p.m. and you cannot have another SLA associated to the ticket because it has been moved to one status or one team to another.
Correct. Well, I want to know where I can start the counter so that at that point the second team can at least have that flexibility.
Yes,
so
you can.
That turnaround time will not be upon them. That's no.
Okay. We can actually get the time when the ticket has been reassigned to the respective team, and you can also define how much time a ticket has to be placed on a particular team.
And I'm hoping to have the same kind of enthusiasm from you guys for the other sessions as well. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be back in 30 minutes.
And the remote work will also follow the same. New applications to deploy. Consider your company is growing, or maybe like you're procuring new set of machines, a new set of servers could be, or workstations. So obviously you need a set of applications to be available on the machine so that it can be immediately made or put into use. And application deployment is also a part within this product. Provision of new endpoints. Now, just a similar one, what if you have a new set of, or procuring a new set of Windows machines that you're going to offer it to your employees? The IT admin's task is very, very, crucial in this case, because you have a deadline, and apart from this task, you have other tasks to be performed, the routines. So, to make it easier, we have an OS deployment that allows you to deploy a master image that you can put it on the new machines with all the softwares within it. And the next one is about comprehensive asset details. My friend Vasant was explaining about asset management within the service product, right? The service management tool of ManageEngine. Right, the asset details can be collected with the help of Endpoint Central, and if you have the ITSM tool of ManageEngine integrated with this Endpoint Central, you get it all under one interface. So you get the asset information and everything clubbed within it, so that you could also raise for any service request or any IT request that you can facilitate within one product. And here comes a help desk activity. Help desk activity, for example, you want to take a remote onto, which is a remote control onto a machine. You want to look at a particular, let's call it like you want to check out the encryption on it or the number of files that they have, right? Anything that you want to take remote control onto the machine, you can do it from here. And that's also bundled within this solution. And here comes the continuous asset tracking. Now, asset tracking is not just, you manually. I mean, so far, what I've seen is most of the companies, they manually type it on a spreadsheet maker, right? That's a traditional method, and I don't see that any flaw, but the task on the amount of time that you invest on it is really, too much. Now, how to make it easier? The workstations, the servers, whatever that you manage, within the endpoint central, you can fetch those asset information on a regular basis. So we have the agent software to capture the agents on every 45 minutes. Right, so on this regular interval, the asset will be captured. What if like there's going to be a new memory added onto this, or maybe a new, a printer, whatever it could be, it is attached to that machine that you're managing. That information will be captured and will be pulled out and will be displayed on the service desk, if required. Now the next one is about workgroup or AD join. So most of the organizations, or eventually, you will obviously have an Active Directory, right? But what if I'm a small group of company, I don't have an Active Directory in my place, and I want to manage it? Yes, you could also do it over here. So it's not very network bound. So any machine that is not added to the Active Directory, or you don't have an Active Directory, just a work group, you can also manage it within this solution. And here comes automation and ITIL. So ITIL, so this specifically speaks about the service desk, the service management tool of ManageEngine, which can be integrated. So it has a lot of functionalities and benefits, and one of them is like taking a remote control, right? So what if like one of your user or an employee raises a request, I'm having a trouble with an application, it's not working, right? And if you want to take a remote control, you don't need to look for another tool to remote control on it. So the benefit here is, from the ITSM product of ManageEngine, you can take a remote control that will get associated to the existing request, the problem request, right? And you can also add logs to it, and the recording will also be associated with the same request, so that in case you are going to hand over this request to another person, that will also be counted within it. And that's about the automation that we have. And auditing and reporting, just like I mentioned, so the audit and the reporting is within the product itself. So you can find out, I want to look at the machines that have been newly joined, probably like a month before, right? And I want to look at, what are the assets that we have, probably, let's call it like I want to look at the RAM, or maybe the processor associated with those endpoints. I can get that. So any kind of a reporting, yes, it is available. And cloud or on-premise, it depends. So far what I've heard is Nigeria is moving towards the cloud, right? So which is like basically looking for solutions, and most of your like resources are moved over to the cloud. So we have made it easier that whatever your environment is, whatever your strategy is, if you are going with an on-premises, yes, you can also have an on-premise version of this product to manage it. And if you are in the movement of cloud, and I'm looking at a cloud solution, yes, we also have a variant of it. And the next thing is about admin app on mobile. Now, most solutions, you have to get into your network within your environment, infrastructure, and you have to log on to the machine, and then you have to look at, the reports or whatever it is. Now, with the admin app in place, that you can have it on your smartphone, that you have it, you can simply look at it, what's the status, what is the task, and was it completed, or what state it is. You can check it out quick and easy. Now these are the prime benefits, and moving forward, I'm taking you to how it benefits the administrators. So a quick idea. So I'll also walk you through the product. So the inventory, software deployment, configuration, remote control. These are the primary features or modules that we offer within the Endpoint Central or the Unified Endpoint Management Solution. So you can see we also have device control, patch management, vulnerability. This particular section falls under the security variant. That is also available within the Endpoint Central product. Right? Let's move on to the next slide. Now, looking at, so this is going to be the topic, so building cybersecurity strategies. Strategies that we have to adopt within our company or the organization. Now, we are going to take a layered approach. So looking at this, as you could see here, this is a concept of a Johari window. It's a psychological a kind of a table that we have it, that we have literally changed it to understand about the vulnerabilities and how to secure the endpoints. We can address it with these set of tools, and finally the unknown and the unknown. Totally it is something that is not being understood, but you are trying to detect it and investigate it whether it's going to cause any problem in terms of security. So that falls under the unknown and unknown segment. Right. So this is the agenda. So you can see here, we will start with each one. Patch Manager plus, Vulnerability Manager plus, Endpoint Central. When I started it, I said about the Endpoint Central in general, right? But what if your organization requires a specific tool for a very particular purpose? Like, I want to make sure my applications are up to date and safe enough from the vulnerabilities. Pretty much. You can pick the Patch Manager plus. And that could be another question from a specific environment. I just want to understand, what are some things going wrong. Patching is not necessary, but I still want to look at, what is happening, something's wrong in my environment. And if there is something that kind of a script or something that I have to sort it out by running across the script, I can do it. To give you an example, it could be of a port, a port that is not being used, which you could detect it from here, and you can block it as well. A remediation task is also available within it. And likewise, we have the other sections, but let me get to that. So the blind spot, the known and the unknown. So we have Vulnerability Manager plus again. So there are known things. For example, there could be a particular protocol that is being completely marked as vulnerable and is being published, but that could be remediated. Probably you can close it, or you can stop the protocol not working on those endpoints. And we have the browser security plus, which you could manage those browsers on the endpoints. Likewise, we have the next one. Let me walk you through this. So here is a strategy. We consider one of an IT administrator in an organization where he is managing around 3,000 endpoints. Just an example, right? So those 3,000 endpoints are not going to be within one particular location. Let's call it he has several locations and he wants to manage them. He's the only IT admin considered. And here he's looking for strategies to secure those endpoints. More than management, securing is his priority. His delivery manager has mentioned that he needs some aspect of looking in a solution that can help him secure those endpoints. And then the very first task, that he is getting is to apply the security policies. But these security policies are not in common. Like, he's having the primary branch in, the head office is in Nigeria, but he wants to manage his branches in other places like Botswana, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, right? But Zimbabwe could have a different security policy, right? And that has to be catered somehow. And we do have an option in order to achieve this. For the head office, you can have a set of security policies, and a different set can be applied for the various branches. And we call it as remote offices. Now, before I explain these top 10 CIS, let me get you to the product portal so you get an understanding of what we have and how it is being. You can use a local authentication, or you can integrate with your Active Directory, right? And you can use your Active Directory authentication to log on to the portal to make it much more sure. So this is the product portal, as you could see here, and the various modules that I showed you earlier are at the top. Right, the configuration, threads and patches. Let me
break down and show you the management features that we have. So the configurations, we start with the configurations. Configurations here would allow you to enforce the policies. Remember I told you that we can have a set of policies applied. So I can push it for the Windows or the Mac. So let me pick out the Windows just for an example. So here I have these set of options that I can execute. Look at it. Like we have an alerts that we can configure on the Windows machine. We can also execute some scripts that you have. You know, that script could do anything that you can execute it. And we also have a browser setting. What if like you want to apply a proxy settings to the browser, right? That you could do it remotely. And display settings. Some of the very helpful things that you could find out is the firewall. You know, you can configure the firewall and remotely, and we have a drive mapping. You can map a drive to the machines so that, you know, there could be some important files that the employees needs to utilize it. You can map the drive. We have a folder backup, for example. You know, what if you do not have an Active Directory environment at all? So you are work group based. You know, you can have the work group users added over here, and the work group, you know, the local groups can also be created. And users, you could also delete a local user from here. So you grant a user, but the user is no longer. If you want to remove that user, yes, we could also do that. Security policies, the local security policies can be executed to the machines. It could be for the Botswana or for the Zambia or for the Nigeria, the head office, whatever it is. You can create the policy and then you can deploy it. And then we have the user management. We have the scheduler. The task scheduler can be remotely configured. So these are some most commonly used policies. And there are other policies as well. But let me show you. So for example, the power management. I want the machines in a particular branch. Let's call it like, let it be the Zimbabwe. So, you know, you have a branch in Zimbabwe, right? Ben is having a branch in Zimbabwe. And you want to configure this, but you want to only apply for the Zimbabwe branch and not for all of them. You can pick it out from here. So you can create the remote offices over here. And you will be applying these policies only for the respective group. So it's very customizable that you can choose which bunch of machines that you want to apply to. And the next one is about software deployment. So an option where we can deploy the softwares on any platform. You want to have a new softwares to be installed, yes, you could do it. If you want to customize the software, yes, you could also do it. You know, not necessarily every time you will install an application like that, right? There could be some scripts that are required, some services needs to be stocked, or, you know, you might also have a need of reboot or a shutdown after the application gets installed. You could also do that. So we have something called a pre-deployment or the post-deployment activity. Let me show that. So here we have a bunch of packages, software packages that we have been commonly notified by our users. So those bunch of packages, we have it as in template. So you don't need to find the vendor website and you don't need to download it manually. Most of them will be available here, but that you could search it over here. But what if like you have a special application that is not commonly used, right? There could be some applications that are not commonly used. Yes, you could add that package of the format that you have, executable, MSI, whatever it is. You can update it here. So basically you will upload it here, and when you upload, you will configure that if there is going to be any special instructions. See the pre-deployment activity and the post-deployment activity. So then this is where you will pretty much mention that this application, when it is going to be installed, I want to perform a script to execute before the installation starts. And after the installation starts, I will go with the post-deployment activity and specify that I need the machine to reboot. And I can also reboot it on a later time. Yes, we could also do that. Now this is about software deployment. And now we have the comprehensive asset information. So you get a complete idea of what are the total number of endpoints that you have, and what are the hardwares and the softwares associated or is with the endpoint. You get the complete list, you can click on it, you will find that entire list available over here. Right? The hardwares and the softwares, you can get it over here. How many softwares in total, and how many hardwares, what was the last time the application was used. These information can be captured. And The mobility management. So mobility management allows you to manage your smartphones and tablets. What if like you have a logistics industry or a company and then you actually hand over smartphones to the end users, right? They could be a driver or could be a different profession, you know? So they will be offered within smartphone and you want to manage them, right? You want to track them where they went, whether they went on the correct destination or they are wandering somewhere else. So these informations you could capture it with the help of geo-tracking that we have it within this product. And not only that, you can also apply policies and applications can be deployed to the smartphones and tablets as well. Generally, there are two types of management that we state for the mobility management, which means for the smartphones and tablets. One is the bring your own device management, your own phone that you bring it to the company to manage or to actually access the corporate applications and data. And there is the second type of management that we call it as corporate device management. So you have, as in a company, you procure those devices and you hand it over to the users. They only will use it for the corporate purpose. What if like they have a set of applications that must only be used on the phone or the tablet that is being offered by the company? Yes, we can do it. So that's the corporate device management, and that options and these options can be availed within the mobile device management section. And here I'm going to show you the tools section. This is what I was referring about the help desk activity options. So you can take remote control over to the Windows machine, and what else? You can also schedule or execute immediately a shutdown or a reboot. What if there could be various reasons? You might have a policy that you want to shut down the machine or reboot it on the maintenance time. Yes, you can schedule it right over here. And you also have an option to connect with the user, the employee, with the machine, basically. So what you do, so you can click on a chat option, or you can have a voice call, or maybe a video call. We have these three options. So you don't have to depend on a different tool, right? Everything is bundled within this. You don't have to look for another tool and granting permissions. You know, what if you want to, the user is a new one who haven't been granted with a corporate email address. So he must go with all those policies. He must be added to the particular software. A lot more tasks. But here, as long as the machine is managed with the agent software of this solution, you know, it pops up with a remote option. So where they can connect, chat, or call. Yes, that can be done. And here is the announcement where you can display announcements of very important, information to all those machines or to a bunch of machines. It could be of any information. Maybe there's going to be, the office is not going to operate tomorrow, so you can let them know. Or there's going to be an important event the next month. You can set that as a message over here and announce it. So that is available. And System Manager allows you to view the services running on it, registries that are available, that are actually on the machine. Lot more things you could do it. Run remotely a command task. You know, you can open the command prompt and you can execute whatever that you want to do it on the remote machine. That is also available within the System Manager. Now, let me get back to the presentation. So, now I have handpicked one of our complaints that is well and widely known, across the globe, which is the CIS. So, the CIS have a set of rules or compliance policies that any organization should adopt to make sure they are secure. So, I have handpicked the top 10 of them, and I'm going to relate it on how Endpoint Central is going to achieve it. Right? Let's see that one by one. So, moving on to the next slide. Right? The fourth point, which says continuous vulnerability assessment and remediation. Right? So, responding to known vulnerabilities. Remember the one that I showed, the section that shows like known and unknown. So, that's what we are dealing here. So, the known vulnerabilities, you can detect the vulnerabilities. How we do it? We have a vulnerability management tab on the product. We get the product. So associated with the patching, we also have vulnerability. So we can find them under the threat section. So once the agent software is being loaded on all the endpoints, we used to capture what softwares are there and what version is there, and what are the protocols that are available, and what are the ports that are open. So we provide you a summary of it. And based on the CD database, we provide you the best, solutions that we have. So, the vulnerabilities will be defined and on which machines it has been affected, the number of machines. You can pretty much drill down it and you can find it. The important thing is it is not only reporting. You're not going to see just the data. You can also sort it out, which means you have a solution. A remediation is available. All you have to do is just click on it and install the patches. That would sort out this problem. Yes, you can do it. The target machine will be picked automatically because the vulnerability is identified on which machine. So to make it easier, you don't have to pick the target machine again in order to execute the solution, or the fix. So it's pretty much easier. All you need to do is identify whether it is a valid vulnerability that you are worried about that could cause a problem, and then you execute the patch for the vulnerability. And this is a manual process, right? This is a manual process. Yet we have it on one single console, but still it's a manual process. You have to pick which vulnerability you have to deploy, right? But we also have an automated option that is available as in the patches. So as in patches, what you could do is you can create an automatic task. This automatic task, what it helps you is you choose the target, right? You choose the target, and as you know, this product or the solution has the inventory that shows you what are the softwares running on it and everything, right? So it gives you a differentiation, what needs to be updated and what would be averted, right? That differentiation will be given. So with this, I can run it regularly environment, in a UAT environment, right? So you can pick the UAT environment and you can have the patches applied to that machine, and you can test it, maybe like for a week or so, and then you can deploy it automatically to the other machines. And that time frame is what you mentioned. So for the UAT or the testing servers, so you can define, I want to test it for 10 days, and after the 10th day, after it is installed or deployed on the test machines, it gets deployed to the production machines. So that's the configuration that we have it here. And this is where we will choose the deployment settings. Basically, I want to deploy it right away. I don't need anything, I don't want to put it on a maintenance or something. I have a time frame right now. I am going to push the patches right away. Yes, you could do it. But what if these servers, this is not the time that I can do it. I can only do it on Saturday or Sunday, whatever the day, and within a time frame, right? Maybe like 9 to 5, or probably 5 in the evening and 12 in the midnight. Yes, you can choose a time frame within this policy. So you will be granted with an option to create or modify an existing policy. So in this policy, you will define the time frame and the day when it is going to get updated. So this is where you create a policy, define the time frame and the number of days, when it is going to happen. What if I want to do it in an alternative day? Maybe my maintenance is on Wednesday and Friday. I can choose that particular days on it, and in which week it is going to happen. Not all the weeks it is going to happen. It is going to happen on the 2nd or the 4th week, right? I can choose the week and the time frame over here. Getting back to this, so the final step is to define the target. This is going to be a one-time task. You're not going to do it on every time basis because this is an automated task, right? So once you define this, it happens on a regular basis, on every month. It's going to happen. It gives you a report on it, whether the patches have been completed or not. So you don't need to schedule it on every week or every month. It automatically does the job and you get the report. So all you have to do is take the report, show it to your manager or the superiors and get this job done. You don't need any further clarifications. He already has those data. So this is about the vulnerability, and let me get to the slide back. So this is the automation that I was explaining. So everyone knows this TLS version 1.0 has some vulnerable thing. So how do we detect it? Before that, we know that we have an option. Endpoint Center somehow has an option to accomplish or disable it. But before we disable it, we have to understand the TLS version 1.0 allows a lot of man-in-the-middle attacks. Like there's some common attacks called as poodle, drown, and so on. So this is very essential. If any organization is using, it literally is going to prone to that attack, right? So we have to make sure to address this. How do we do it? So on the vulnerability part, which I showed you, so we have system misconfigurations. System misconfigurations completely provide you, what are the things that have been void or vulnerable on the managed endpoints. Now, you have a template that has already been published by us, which shows you the TLS version 1.1 protocol is enabled. So what you do is, you find out whether the machines are affected. Yes, it is affected. You pretty much click on it and fix it. Deploy the current policy that will fix it out. So that will make the changes to block the TLS 1.1 on the endpoint itself, on the browser. So pretty much that's what it will do. And pretty easy, and with one click and within the same interface, you get this job done. So let's go to the known and unknown. So we have another interesting, a point from the CIS, which is about the browsers, email and web browser protections. So browser, as I mentioned, is a easy and a common tool where any attackers can penetrate into it, right? You somehow try, imitate like a valid one, and you somehow convince the user to execute the script or anything, or it could be of an add-on or anything. They will be attacked or easily will be prone to that. So how do we secure them? So let's see that. So as you know, why do enterprises need browser security? Protecting your network from the security breaches and sensitive enterprise data. Cookies. You have a lot of data, the passwords and a lot of things. The data will be available. That is also, easily will be taken if the particular browser has been affected. Now let's look at it. So 1.5, do not allow users to enable or disable add-on. This is one of the very important one, allowing a user to add whatever the add-ons that they find it on the browser, on the Google Chrome, or on the Internet Explorer or the Edge. That add-on could have some malicious activity, right? We are not sure. The employees or the user, as an admin, we know that it's not trusted to be, but the users, they won't understand that, right? So it's all part of securing it, and how do we do it is to disable that add-ons not to be installed by the user. Meaning, as an admin, I have a category where I can push down the add-ons. So I will be provided with an option to add the trusted add-ons, and I can push it across to the user's web browsers. Now, I will deny that the user cannot install those add-ons, any of the extensions or add-ons. But as an admin, I can do it. So that's what we can do it from here, and to make sure it is secure. And the next one is about continue running background apps when Google Chrome is closed and is set to disable. So this, we could also configure it over here, right? So not only this, we have other options. What if you are running in a medical, your organization associated to a medical industry or something, or a healthcare industry. So you predominantly, the employees will work on the browsers, because that's where they connect to the servers, the data and database and everything, right? So the browser is essential to secure them, and as you can see, we can block the screenshots, and we can also block the file uploads to the web pages. What if they accidentally access some kind of a Google Drive or something, and they can upload those data, which is also something not allowed, right? So those things can also be restricted, and cookies can also be blocked, as you see at the very bottom, right? And here comes the first and the third point, right? So network access control. So we have an option to find out what are the enterprise assets which are within the network, and we can also have a secure configuration onto it. So let's see that. So this is the workflow of the network access control option that we provide within the Endpoint Central product, or the Unified Endpoint Management Solution. So this network access control, so basically the administrator defines a set of policies, and if it is being abided, those machines fall within the category, it will be applied with a set of policies. So here, this is an example. You want to ensure that the Windows machines are up to date with the 21H2 and not with the previous one, right? You can set up the policy. Let me show you. Right, this is the exact location where you can find the registry value of the machine has been updated to 21H2 or not. This is a very valid one that is being provided by Microsoft, which we are also going to include it as in the policy. So I will go to this place, I'll create the set of intranet range. What I do is I specify the rule and I specify the IP range where the machines will not be considered to be connected. You know, most of the cases you will have, you might need to connect onto your intranet and to capture some data, right? Those are very sensitive and very important ones. And if the machine is not up to date, and somehow if the machine is being attacked, no, it's being prone to it, somehow it is being vulnerable, and if it can, allow the attacker to, penetrate into the intranet, that's going to be again a fault, right? A mistake, a huge mistake. So that we can prevent it. So by applying these policies, what we'll do is, if the machine is compliant to that rule, they will be allowed to these intranet ranges. If it is not, it will be blocked. So that option, yes, we also have it within the product. And so the second blind spot that we are here, to the top 10 CIS, so we picked out the second and the sixth one. Let's see what are those. Whitelisting of business applications. Why do we need to whitelist a business application, right? So as an admin, I'm going to push what are the applications required on the machines, on the endpoints that are managed, right? So why do we need something, whitelisting the business applications? There are very specific cases where some users try to install an application that is out of the box from the browser, anywhere it could be. So, and here, with this endpoints and all, the unified endpoint management, we could achieve it very easily with one policy. And just taking as an example, what if the organization is a Microsoft only organization? They only want this Edge browser to actually browse to those intranets and specific sites. And they also want the teams to connect so that they can connect to the conferences and nothing else. They are whitelisting only these two applications. So let's see how we do within the endpoint central product. As you can see here, we have the app control. Under that, we can specify the product based on a category. What if you want the machines to work with only the Microsoft applications? You don't want to specify which application. Yes, you could do it. Or you have a verified hash, a file hash value that you want to specify. Yes, you could also do that. A file hash is something very specific to an application that is, spawned from that file, right? An executable, a valid executable. You can whitelist that particular executable to only run, to ensure the validity and the trusted application. Yes, once you set this policy, again, it's like the previous case, you'll just deploy to the respective target machines, as in which branch you want to apply it, it gets applied to it. And associated to that, so we have another one, removing local admin accounts. Why do we have to remove a local admin account? So basically, one local admin account of the administrator is fine. But what if another person creates another local account, which could be, somehow used for any other non-trusted, reasons. So, and also it can allow the privileged access. So we have to ensure we have an auditing of what are the local admin accounts that we have it on each machine and which local admin accounts that we want to allow it on those machines. So that we could configure and make sure the policy has been set right. So here we can find out how many local admin accounts are found on the entire managed machine. So you get a list of it. These are the list of local admin accounts found on all those machines. Now, it's your job that you have to pick which local admin accounts that you do not want, because some machines will have 2 local admin accounts that you don't want to. Maybe it's not necessary for that machine. Maybe previously you might have used it, but not now. So that you could remove it just over here. So here comes the data protection. Looking at it, this is a very common example. You could see that there are a lot of cases that they might connect their own flash drive or a thumb drive to their machine, right? Now, how do you find out that the flash drive is secure? You have an antivirus, yes, fine. But what if it is not being, your organization doesn't have or rely on the antivirus, and that particular flash drive could have some malicious files on it, and that could definitely attack the entire machine, and that could also allow the network to penetrate on other machines as well, right? So obviously it's a danger zone, and we also have to protect it, right? How do we do it? Is like choosing the trusted USB devices. Why do we have to choose a trusted USB devices? Because there are cases like administrators want certain jobs to be done with the flash drives. You might have, but you can't allow all the flash drives, right? Which the user could also use their own. So you can add the trusted USB devices, and you can also have another policy of the DLP, which is there is a specific file formats that I do not want to copy. Yes, both these can be achieved. So this is where you will find this. Under device control is where you will choose the trusted devices, and you define a policy that apart from the trusted devices, do not allow any other devices, right? Or even, some organizations, they do not have any trusted devices. Then you can block all the USB devices, securing that no USB devices will be connected to it. No data transfer will happen. And if you want to allow, you can also have an auditing for that as well. Which devices have been connected previously and which are going to be connected. You can also get an auditing. Either you can block it completely, or you can block it only for the other devices, or you can have auditing alone. So all these three options are available so that you can understand, that machine, whether the USB devices are connected or not, data transfer has happened or not. How do we identify it? So, let's call it like you have some kind of a banking, right? So a banking environment could have a lot of data. It could be of a personal identification number, it could be of their driving license number, whatever it could be. It could be of a bank account number, anything it could be. But if this data is being somehow captured by an attacker or someone outside the organization, definitely they can misuse it, isn't it? So how do we secure it? So looking at it, we can set a ground rule, like a bank account number will be starting from this range, and I can identify that, and files having this particular numbers, right, the identification number or whatever the range, it will be not allowed to copy to the USB flash drive or any other aspect. So we can secure that as well by creating custom rules here. And moving on, we have the encryption management. Data protection, yes, we need to have the data at rest to be protected. Any data that you have it on your external, on your hard drive that is within the machine needs to be protected. Right? We have the BitLocker and the file vault encryption that you can enforce it. Meaning not only enforcing it, what if like the BitLocker encryption key is being forgot by the user? You could also have the recovery key here, and you can tell it to the user, or you can unlock it. So that you could achieve it within the product, and let me show it on the product portal quickly. You can enable the BitLocker or disable it, right? You can also find the recovery key, and the same applies for the Mac devices, and they have the file vault encryption. So that is also available within this product. Let me show that quickly. So the fourth quadrant is about the unknown and the unknown. Basically, it's something that is not being detected. We don't have a known case of it. So how do we detect it? And this is where we fall. We are bringing out the anti-ransomware, which is already available within the product of Endpoint Center. So when you go to the anti-ransomware, what we do is to find out any kind of a malicious activity, and we have an ability to restore a file. The basic concept of ransomware is to have the data steal, and then you put it on, as an attacker, you can have it anywhere else, and you ransom for money, right? That's the basic concept of this ransomware. So what we do here is we recover the files, and in this part we are going to explain it on the next session post the lunch. I don't want to completely break down and show you how it works. I'm just going to have it explained on the next session for clarity, right? So this is the BitLocker that I was explaining. So you can see that the total endpoints that we have, and how many endpoints do we have the BitLocker enabled. We could also create the policy deployment. You could create a policy that the BitLocker must be enabled, and you can get that done. So the recovery key is available here. You can also retrieve the recovery key, and you can share it to the user. And This is where the endpoint DLP, and which I showed it as in a screenshot. So you define the data classification and deploy the policy. So the data will be classified if it is going to be credit cards of a particular range that it starts, you will define the ranges and the policy here that you will specify. And within the policy, you can specify which application and what it doesn't allow it to do. So that will be available over here. So the data discovery, you will pick out the classification. Let's call it like, it's going to be mobile number, the rule. So, and the data loss prevention. So what I'm going to do is to allow within trusted applications. So I will define, as an administrator, I know which applications are trusted. I will define which applications that I am going to allow these applications to access the sensitive data. And then if I want to allow the screen capture to be performed on those data, yes, I can also do it. And which email that it must be allowed to view it. That could be any email, like and different application of email could be there, a Thunderbird or whatever it is. But I only want to allow the Outlook to access the sensitive data. Yes, I could do it. And the file uploads and which web browsers, it needs to be allowed. Everything can be configured and can be executed safely. And this is where the browsers, the control and the management can be executed. And this is where the device control, where we specify the policy to block the USB drives or the flash drives and get a complete report and audit of it. So pretty much that's about this our presentation on the security end. So any questions, guys? You guys have any questions? I'll be glad to help.
One is Endpoint Central is a cloud-based.
We have both. Just like I mentioned, so if you are an on-prem environment, we have everything within the in-house, and you want to manage your in-house machines and devices, you can go with an on-prem. And we also offer a cloud-based, meaning like if you're moving towards the cloud and you have all your solutions and resources in the cloud, you can get the cloud variant of the Endpoint Center and you can manage those.
Okay, for the cloud-based, it allows teleworking, right?
It allows
teleworking. So my users are working from home.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what's the license like? Is it per endpoint or it has a bulk number?
Bulk number. I mean, is it about the number of license that is?
So do I get one license for one endpoint, or
that's right,
I can get one license for 200 endpoints?
No, it's going to be number of endpoints is the license how it is being consumed.
It's based on number of endpoints as well as number of technicians that will be using the portal.
Technicians is someone who needs access to the portal. For example, you're the primary administrator, you want another one to take care of some of the tasks. So he needs to access the portal. That will be considered as another technician.
So the technician license, is it different from the endpoint license?
Yes, it is.
Right.
Different.
It's different, okay. So another thing is the license, does it cover all the features?
Yeah, mostly. It's about the edition that you purchase.
Yeah,
For convenience, you can go start with a different variant of edition, and then if you want to avail the other features, you can upgrade it to the next edition.
Okay, so for the local admin for endpoints, right? Does it count? Do you have a dashboard that counts how many endpoints? Let's say I have 200 laptops in my environment or 3,000 laptops. Is there a dashboard that can just easily go to say, okay, these are the number of endpoints that have local admin on them?
We do. So you want an idea of how many machines are managed with the solution out of your environment. For instance, you have like 250 workstations in your environment, but you have been managing only 50 machines. You want to know about
Yes. So let's say I changed companies, for instance, and I go to the firm. the previous guy there limiting, so there was no handover. And I don't know how many endpoints have local admin installed on them or activated on them. How do I need to know that? You mentioned you could take your patches and point it to your test environment, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say something went wrong.
Mhm.
How do this is there a place, is there a section on the endpoint central that I can say, okay, if the patches fail on the test environment,
Okay.
do not push to production?
Yes, we do. We have that option. That we have it right now. So patches that are successfully installed in at least one of the machines and have not failed in any machine, right, will be approved. You understand it? So we are automatically approving it, like on the test environment, on the test bed, we have a bunch of machines, right? So it will be automatically approved after 7 days. But the ground rule here is like the patches must be successfully installed in at least one of the machines and have not failed in any of the machines. So for example, you have 5 machines in a test environment. One of the machines got successfully installed and the rest of them are in progress or something like that, it will be approved. But if it fails on one machine, right, within the test environment, it will be automatically denied.
Establishments, maybe an enterprise establishment that has branches all over the country.
Okay.
You understand? So, and you want to make a sales pitch why they should buy ManageEngine. Is there a tool that you run on customers' environment such that you generate reports and give the customer that this is the reason why you must go my way or face the dangers of that?
Understood. I get the point over here, but our solution unfortunately works with a probably you can install it on a demo setup or something, and you can showcase this. That would be one of the best options because this solution completely works with a needed server architecture. So maybe just.
Thank you so much for asking this question. The gentleman's question was, what was that competitive pitch against the competitors? That's exactly what he wanted. So the first one is the flexibility that we have, the kind of products that we have, the integration that we have with other solutions. That is something which not many competitors offer. The other one is the way we have priced and the licensing. You can see how easy it is to license our endpoints, our solutions here. Talk about any ManageEngine solution, the licensing is going to be as simple as you can think of. You don't have much parameters to even look into when it comes to the licensing part of it. In case if there's any specific competitor that you're looking at, we will share those competitive documents to you. Yeah? That summarizes it. I'll probably be able to take 2 questions, and I have seen 2 people raising their hands for long. Let me have 1 question from here. I'll be back to you. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks to the facilitator meeting you again. Okay, I think I answered this question last time, but I'm still waiting to get a full clarity on this, especially on PNP versus this desktop central. I could see they are almost interwoven, and I could see this portal you just displayed to us has a large variety of different interface, different application you can navigate through. Now on PNP, which I use, it just strictly restricted to that. Why do we have PNP separate? Why do we have desktop central separate? Where we can either do away with PNP. Let's know we are having desktop central, where you could see all the various solutions you can navigate through and want to possibly upgrade your licenses to manage solutions in your environment. That's for that. Possibly you help me have a better insight on that. Then
can we go one at a time? So thank you for asking this question. In fact, it's a strategic decision that we have PMP and endpoint central as separate ones. But as I said earlier in my first session, where we're going to focus more on security this year, So that's when we thought PMP is going to be the base for managing all the passwords, all the accounts, all the access controls, and so on. So it's just a matter of time that we are going to announce ManageEngine as one, as a single solution, where PMP will be the central control for all the configurations for routers, switches, firewalls, and devices all put together. And all other products will be actually referring to PMP for the information, for the credentials. So that's exactly how it is going to be once we release the product.
A patch failed on one test machine, assuming you have 5 test machines and the patch failed in one test machine, that it will not be approved. Is that your response? Right.
That's correct.
That's
okay.
Right.
Now, in an instance where these machines are of different, these test machines are of different OS, it fails in 21H1 and in 21H2 it is required. In the test machine for 21H2 it is required. Why will it be? Why will that particular patch be rejected, knowing fully well that 21H2 machine requires that specific patch for it to move on and deploy to various endpoints?
Okay. Thank you so much for that question, sir, and provide much more clarity on it. So what I meant is a test group for Windows platform. You can separate it to a max of for Windows servers and Windows workstations. The best practice is, you club all the Windows machines within one test group, and for the Mac you have a different test group, and for the Linux you have a different test group. Is what I actually suggested, and the best practice as well. So if there is going to be a patch deployed and if it is going to be failed, within the test group, you would be able to specify the maximum number of days it will take to approve it. That will automatically deploy to the production machines, right? So within the 10 days, you can identify which machine has failed and why it has failed. If you want to suspend that particular task so that the production environment will not get the patch deployed, you could take the necessary action. So that's what our friend was also asking about pen test, Mr. Roland, right? So a pen testing environment is not something that we have, but you can have one created in your environment. If you have like Windows workstations alone of various versions, like 10 and 11 and so on, you can have plug them, pick one machine from each of them and you can have it within one test group and you can run the test bed. So that's the best practice that I was explaining it.
We'll probably take it offline. We'll probably take it offline. Yeah.
Okay. So the next one is, I observe that sometimes approved patches do not deploy to endpoints, and you need to manually make that deployment. Is there any specific reason why we'll be having such scenarios?
The approved patches with the test and approve concept.
Yes, test and approved patch. Yeah, approved patches. I'm talking about that. So it has gone through test machine. It has been approved. Now, some of them are not being deployed to the endpoints until you have to manually do the deployment. Is there any specific reason why such scenarios occur?
That's the rule that I mentioned or showed it over there. If at least one machine within the UAT is failing, it will be declined. If any one machine is being successfully, installed, that particular patch will be considered approved and will automatically get done. Did we have the configuration with the checkbox selected and the number of days specified? If so, it must do the job. Do you understand when I showed you that there was a bottom option where it showed you like automatically approved patches with a gray area because the checkbox was not selected? Were you having that checkbox selected or not? Because if you have that selected, it will work. That's a point.
We'll just look into those issues which is specific to your environment as offline. The general questions is what we will answer here. I'm sorry to interrupt here. Yeah?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think one thing I feel that...
Is that the last question?
Yeah, that's the last question.
Thank you.
Agent deployment. Agent deployment. So over time, I think possibly ManageEngine will need to develop a solution that is going to help agent to be deployed centrally. Yeah, you say there are ways we can, But I know there are some specific scenarios where one would need to want to get some external solutions to help in deploying these agents specifically. So please, with time, I think ManageEngine, especially as it relates to most of their solutions requiring agents to be on the systems. So a central solution that is going to aid and fast track process of installing agents, I think it should be considered in the nearest future.
Of course, we are doing this. In fact, if you have seen this, the agent consolidation, earlier it used to be like Services Plus had its own agent, and anyone using Endpoint Central had to deploy another agent. Right now, it's just one agent that we have come up with. So we are going to enhance the capabilities of this agent. So when we release ManageEngine as one, it's actually going to be one single agent which is going to take care of all the activities. Definitely it is considered, and we are working towards it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Where I'm going to focus on the need for hybrid IAM, followed by which I'm going to talk about the challenges in implementing the IAM solution, the strategies to address those challenges, and finally, how ManageEngine is going to help you with its IAM solution. So this is the agenda for today. What is this IAM solution? So it helps you to securely manage identities of users. When I say identities of users, it also includes the entities. So you cannot deviate the entities from the users. So entities and users are tied together. So it helps you to securely manage the digital identities of users and entities. Remote work is made easier through single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and so on, because users can work from anywhere. They can connect through any internet. Someone from Starbucks, someone from McDonald's, someone from 4-Point Sheraton. So how do you manage those identities, and how do you help to secure the identities of those users using single sign-on and multi-factor authentication? And how do you secure your hybrid cloud infrastructure? So this is where an IAM solution is going to be useful. There is the CASB concept, if you have come across, Cloud Access Secure Broker. So where it helps you to know or understand who's accessing your cloud application, when, where, why, how. All the W's are being answered using the CASB. So that's also part of your IAM solution. And then we have to adopt the zero trust model. So as I kept telling you in the morning, don't trust anyone. Today my CEO travels across different countries. He connects his laptop and mobile device from any available internet place. That's exactly what we do as well. We connected from the lounge, we connected from the dinner place, the restaurant, we connected from the hotel, and then without doing any checks, we actually connected to our office network. This quite happens in any environment. So don't trust any device which comes into your network, even if it is your CEO. That's exactly what I mean when it comes as zero trust. Enforce fine-grained access controls for privileged accounts. So how do you ensure the right person access the right device at the right time? That's also part of your IAM solution. And then we have your IAM solution detect the anomalous activities of users. So the need for IAM here is, why do you need it? All along we have just seen what an IAM solution can do for you, but right now the focus is on the need for an IAM solution. As we all know, there has been an exponential increase in threat attacks, data breach, and data privacy, and so on, data leakage. So an IAM solution is going to help you avoid this kind of a data breach or security threat. Governance, regulation, and compliances. Today, I'm not sure if you have any data privacy compliance here, but quite a few countries have their own data privacy regulations. They have their own cloud regulations as well. If you have to deal with businesses in European countries, you have to follow GDPR. So what are those reports which will actually help you understand that you are deviating the GDPR policies? So these are few reports which actually you have to work on, the compliance reports that you have to work on. Hybrid work challenges. How do you manage those identities, and how do you gain access to your corporate perimeter is something which you will have to understand before implementing an IAM solution. Workload or data share across hybrid platforms. Today, you have in-house applications, you have cloud applications. How is the data being shared across these applications is what we have to look on when it comes to an IAM. And finally, the necessity for a granular access control. By the way, there are three components of IAM. The first one is the identification, authentication, and the authorization. So what are the challenges in an IAM solution? First one is the user password fitting, object provisioning and deprovisioning, access controls. We are going to look at fine-grained access controls, the siloed directory for on-premise and cloud applications. Today, if you have two different directory services, one for on-premise and one for cloud, I think you have to go back to your office and rework on the strategy. Remote work challenges, task automation and its challenges. We are also going to look into orchestration here, and compliance with regulations, scalability and maintenance, and finally, security behavior analytics. These are the challenges when it comes to IAM. The first one we are going to start off with is the password management and security. Today, as administrators, let's be honest here. How many of you have been resetting the passwords for your users? Active Directory passwords for users. I see some smiling faces. Though you are shy to even raise your hands, I know that you are still doing it. Yeah? Of course you are. Yes, let's be honest. Now, go back to your users and ask a question. Do they call Facebook or Gmail, or do they call their banking application bank support system to reset their passwords? No, right? Have you ever seen anyone calling Facebook to reset the password? Oh, come on. If someone says yes, I'll be happy to see, I'll be happy to understand how he does. Okay, there's no Facebook support as well. So we don't call Facebook. So then why do the users call us? As administrators, have we been taught, have we actually done our engineering, computer engineering, just to reset passwords? Absolutely not. We are administrators. There is something called as administrator. We are supposed to administrate something. We are supposed to administrate the policies. We are supposed to administrate what is happening within the network. So if you have understood what your role as administrator is, the first thing that you will do is go back to your office and say, there is a software from ManageEngine which will help help users to reset their own passwords. Or you will fight with your management saying that I am not going to reset the password for someone else. Absolutely not. Today, I'm sure how many of your partners know what your phone password is? Don't even share the phone password to your partners. Come on, let's be honest. It's important. It's your own personal thing. It's your own personal device. So let's do this. Let's go to talk to our management, help them understand that users are responsible for their own passwords. In fact, once you do this, I'm sure the number of incidents that you get in your service desk is going to reduce. Honestly, yes. Yeah? So the next question comes is, how secure is the password? Or what are the password policies that I can enforce on the users? It should be anywhere between 11 characters to 16 characters or 32 characters. It should not have any dictionary terms. The password age has to be like 60 days. It's no longer 120 days. The password age is 60 days or 30 days. Shorter the period, it's actually going to be secure. You actually don't give room for hackers or internal attackers or external attackers to steal your password. And then we have password synchronizer. Why do you need this? Today, you have multiple portals, multiple applications which actually uses Active Directory as the identity. So if you have multiple applications having different passwords for different users, it's actually really hard to remember. So instead what you do is you have Active Directory as your identity service, and then you allow all applications to integrate with Active Directory and have the password synchronized across these applications. And finally, users would want to be notified when the password expires. Nobody wants to remember when my password is going to expire. So these are the various challenges that you have to address when it comes to password management and security. Object provisioning and deprovisioning. This is something which my friend Vasant talked about in the morning. So how do you create users? So how do you ensure that users are created without human intervention? So something which you have to talk about object provisioning and deprovisioning. It's not about just users. You also have to talk about the computer accounts, the contacts, the group information, and access to file and folders, NTFS permissions, and so on. So all this has to be part of your object provisioning. So where we have synchronize, where you have to provision users in Active Directory, Office 365, Exchange mailbox, should it be a public or a private folder, and so on. All those configurations which has to be done on one particular template, and it is automatically applied to all the users. And when it comes to cleaning up your Active Directory objects, I just have this one question for you all. How clean is your Active Directory? Does anyone have an answer? Which one? Yeah. So you probably have to look into your Active Directory configuration and see how many inactive user accounts are there. But as administrators, we all know how tedious the job is. You have to go through the configuration. But what if there is a rule which actually helps you to go through this configuration every day and then gives you a report saying that these are the inactive users? Probably you should have some rules, right? When someone leaves the organization or someone has not logged into your Active Directory for more than 60 days, you don't want to delete it immediately. You probably want to first delete the computer account. You want to remove the Exchange mailbox that has been associated with the user, and then you want to remove the user from various groups that he has been part of, distribution lists that he is part of, and then finally you want to move him to a different OU before you can finally delete this particular user account. So you don't know when the user is going to come back. So for these kind of scenarios, you probably have to have a policy which will help you to clean up your Active Directory objects and accounts. Access controls. So here, access controls, the name is quite easier to understand, but what we are going to talk about is conditional access. Now we have been talking about password resets and things and so on, but do we allow users to reset their passwords from wherever they are connected? Because we don't know how secure a particular network is. What if he is connecting from a Starbucks and there's also a threat actor who is sitting next to him and trying to peep into what he is doing there? Yeah. So we probably have some rules here saying that anybody trying to reset their passwords out of Office network is going to be blocked. Or probably we will say some geographical locations here, some geolocations. All those conditions are in. So here, the network to which he is connected, from the device which he can reset his passwords, and the geolocation or the working hours. So let's even say if he is trying to reset his passwords before 9 o'clock, we are going to block it. We are going to remove it. So that's exactly what you can do here. You can allow full access, or you can enforce multi-factor authentication to do it, or you can block the access or allow limited access across these: password self-service, endpoint login, which is logging to your laptops and mobile devices with multi-factor authentication, or cloud or on-premise applications with single sign-on. So these are the conditional access aspects that you have to look in for when you have to address the challenges related to identity access management solution. Enterprise single sign-on. I've already told you that there are multiple applications, portals which users have access to. So we probably have to have one single identity provider which can authenticate users across all these applications. So you have to have support for SAML or OAuth or OpenID Connect and so on, and your identity access management solution should be compatible with your cloud applications too. You can use existing Active Directory identities, and you actually can initiate identity provider initiated SSO flows or service provider initiated SSO flows. So here, when it comes to service provider, this is the concept here. So the user gets connected to the service, and the first layer of authentication is going to be the ManageEngine solution or your IAM solution, and then the second layer of authentication is going to be your OTP or your RSA or your Duo, Google Duo, whatever it is, and then the user gets access to the resource. If it is going to be identity provider, then the user gets access to the identity access management solution, and then there's a second layer of authentication like OTP or Duo, and then you have access to the cloud application. So this is the difference between identity provider and service provider initiated SSO flows. Remote work enablement. This is something which we have to look into for a hybrid work model, where we have administrators getting connected to the remote devices or critical devices. So how do you ensure your administrators do the right changes on Active Directory? So sensitive Active Directory changes have to be done only based on approval. And anybody connecting to your network through the VPN, you forcefully or you mandate SSO or multi-factor authentication, and you have an Active Directory or Microsoft 365 delegated access. Task automation, which we are going to talk about in the next slide. So here, automation and orchestration. Today we know what automation is. You just automate a task. You move, here are quite a few examples here. You move computer accounts to the appropriate OUs, or you track inactive users and disable them, or find users with soon to expire passwords to change at next logon. So these are few tasks which can be automated. But what if you have to orchestrate across multiple departments? So I think Vasant was focusing on the point that when you have a user to be deleted from the organization, or when a user leaves the organization, you have to delete his computer account. You have to remove him from various portals access that you have provided to him. You also have to disable his mailbox. You have to disable his computer account and then delete the user. So all these activities have to go one after the other. So that's exactly when you actually talk about orchestration. You have to recover the assets as well. Whatever assets have been provided to him. It could be a web-based VoIP number, it could be a software asset, it could be a hardware asset which has been provided to the user. All these has to be recovered when the user leaves the organization. Behavior analytics. So here, when it comes to behavior analytics, you keep track of what the user is doing within the organization. So what happens when there's an unusual user behavior? Let's take an example here. A user logs into your network anywhere between 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. But one fine day, he actually logs in at 12 noon. So which means that there is a deviation in the pattern that he is logging in. That's the time deviation that has been delivered or that has been exhibited by the user. Or what if the user is usually logs in from a specific location, but one fine day he is logging in from a different location? That becomes an location deviation. Or if he's accessing his device or accessing his account from a different device. Today, when you log into Zoho, you always get a notification that a new sign-on has been, or new sign-in has been identified from a different location or from a different device. So these are things which you have to enforce as part of your behavior analytics. So what does it help you to do? It helps you to monitor rogue users, check for compromised accounts, and detect unusual processes on member servers. So here we have this concept of machine learning and artificial intelligence, which will help you identify the deviation in the pattern and give reports based on those risks involved in those deviation patterns. So say for example, higher the risk, the more vulnerable the user or the entity is. Scalability, your IAM solution should have a high availability option, and it also should have an option to backup and restore. So what happens if your Active Directory is completely, Active Directory configuration is completely lost? So it should actually help you to do a full and an incremental backup. And similarly, when it has to restore, you don't want to restore the entire configuration. Say for example, if you have changed someone's phone number, or you have updated the phone number incorrectly, and you want to just retrieve this from the previous backup, you don't have to retrieve the entire Active Directory configuration. It's enough just you retrieve that particular object and just that particular field alone. Within the object, you just select the field and it should automatically help you restore the previous value. So that's the kind of granularity that you have to identify as part of your restoration in IAM solution. When it comes to compliance, your IAM solution should be compliant with the standard ones. If you are dealing with payment card industry, it should comply with PCI DSS. If you are from a health organization, it should be HIPAA, SOX, and then ISO 27001. Anybody dealing with European businesses, you have to comply with GDPR policies. And when it comes to data risk assessment, you also have to have control over what kind of data is being shared and what kind of data is being stored in files, who gets access to these files and folders, and what kind of information, is that personally identifiable information, PII or EPHI, electronic patient health information. So if you have any of these information within this file, then the risk associated with this file is going to be higher. Anybody accessing it without authority or without authorization will actually be reported as a risk. Then if you want to look at a solution from ManageEngine which will help you address all these challenges and all those challenges that I spoke to you about a while ago, AD360 is going to be the answer. AD360 is one solution that will fit all the requirements. As you can see here, it has got AD Manager Plus, which deals with computer accounts, creating and deleting computer accounts, modifying computer accounts, users, providing access to Exchange, then file and folders, and so on, and also helps you to delegate access to your technicians. AD Audit Plus to identify who did what, when, how, what kind of changes were done onto the member servers, Active Directory servers, your file servers, and so on. AD Self-Service Plus for password resets. Exchange Reporter Plus for monitoring your email traffic. O365 Plus for managing your Office 365 licenses and users. And Recovery Manager Plus for backup and recovery. So it's kind of a modular licensing. Each component has its own licensing attributes. When it comes to AD360, it all fits one. Then, assuming you have two products, two individual solutions like AD Manager and AD Audit Plus, it's easier for you to upgrade to AD360. So you don't have to pay anything more, except that the licenses have to be transferred from individual solutions to the unified solution. And the advantage is your technicians get single console access. They don't have to log into multiple consoles for each of these activities that I described. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. The question I want to ask is this identity access management solution. So, like, does it have this passwordless authentication? And the reason why I'm asking for the passwordless authentication is because there are some systems that automatically they have keyloggers that they capture the password and credit card details automatically.
Of course. We already have this in one of our Zoho Zoho identity provider, which is called as Zoho OneAuth. It's just a matter of time that we have to implement it as part of our AD Self-Service Plus. We are already working on it. It's just that I'm not sure about the time frame. I just wanted to ask him if we already have. It looks like we don't have it right now. It's just a matter of time that we have to bring in AD Self-Service. We're already working on it. Yeah? No more questions?
Are there any new logs being generated in a router all of a sudden? For the past 3 years, there are no logs, and all of a sudden, there is a bunch of logs being generated on your router. There is an anomaly which is being detected. If you see, if there is no AI, as long as the router is working and you don't get the dreaded phone call, you're still fine, right? You don't realize that there's something wrong with your network. But in this case, if there is an AI integration with your IT operations, you'll immediately note that there is an anomaly and you'll start working on it. Event correlation and root cause analysis. Again, goes back to having multiple systems. The moment there is an issue, you should know whether the issue is on the server or the application running on the server or your DNS servers or Windows servers or DHCP servers. So all that correlation between different activities can be found out by AI engines. Outage prediction, business intelligence, automation. outage prediction. You can know based on the system parameters that the last time there was an issue, the CPU utilization was around 80%. Now I noticed that CPU utilization has been going up. It has been 30, 40, 50, 60. I'm sure within the next couple of days, the system is going to go down. This is what we talk about when we say outage prediction. Business intelligence. Business intelligence is example which I just gave, that the system should be able to understand that a particular server is a critical server. The moment it's down, when a ticket is raised, it should be a priority ticket. All these things are business intelligence which are built in, and the good thing is the AI can understand that. Automation is the same, like the example which we just discussed, workflow automation. With AI, it helps us do a seamless automation, not just within this specific software, but also if you have an API-based integration, we can do automation on other third-party applications as well. So this is how it works. You have your business, you have application, infrastructure, all the data that is gathered from here will be sent to AI and machine learning algorithms. It will understand, digest whatever it has seen, and then give you automation on top of it. Incident response, if something is down. Resource scaling, it will tell you to keep increasing the virtual machines or keep increasing the memory, RAM, hard disk. Cost optimization, it can tell you that you can shut down a few virtual machines because at this time there is no load. Network provisioning, security enforcement. So these are all the various things that come into picture the moment you start bringing in AI into your IT operations. As I said, it's not just sufficient to monitor your devices or your applications or whatever network related devices that you have in your environment. It's very important to understand the user experience. Now, how do you understand the user experience? We have something called real user monitoring, and we have a scoring mechanism called Abdex score. So what it does is, every time a user interacts with your application, it tries to gather multiple parameters like which location is logging from, which browser is the guy using, is he using an operating system, what is the performance, when he executed the Windows machine, how much time, when he executed the query to access your application, how much time it took to load the application. All this information will be gathered and there will be a score attached to that particular user experience. It will say whether the user is satisfied, unsatisfied, or is in the medium range. Based on that, you can, as IT administrator, notice that, okay, out of 90 users, 80 of them are happy and only 10 users are struggling. And for those 10 users, how do you manage? How do you get more information on top of it? That's where deep tracing comes into picture. So the application should be able to trace the actual calls being made at the backend. For example, if I go to Google Chrome and type Amazon.com, immediately it's not going to go to Amazon server. First, it's going to convert the name Amazon.com into a DNS server and then reach out to that specific server. If there is a firewall in between, it will do a natting and then send the request to your actual server in the network. Now, there are many layers involved. So, if you are trying to troubleshoot something, the application should be able to understand each of the layers, not just from a networking side, but also from an application side, but also from a coding side. What are the calls being made in Java whenever the user has placed that application? How much time it has taken to do a DNS resolution? How much time has it taken to do the ping? So all these things should be gathered together, and then you understand what is the user experience or the customer experience. So this is what we talk about when we say total health and experience. Now, we understand what are the main features, and let's talk about what are the challenges in most of the IT operation management software that we face on a day-to-day basis. Handling huge data. Now there are different type of devices, not just your typical router switches. Now we have IoT devices, we have sensors, we have drones, we have all types of devices being added to your network, including your CCTV cameras. Now every nook and corner of the cities are being covered by CCTV cameras. So we have just discussed that if there are 1,000 devices, as a network administrator, it doesn't make any sense to sit and make thresholds, configure the threshold for each of these devices. That is another big problem that we face. Locating faults. Since there are multiple things involved, your network switch, server, storage, DNS server, DHCP server, we don't know where is the issue. So it becomes, if something is not working, and especially having to work with so many teams, each team handling different part of your network, it becomes really difficult to find out what are the faults in your network. Understanding data utility. You have a lot of data captured, but there is no information coming out of it. You don't know when you have to upgrade? When is your storage capacity going to be oversubscribed? When is your website performance going to be affected because the number of requests a lot of requests are coming in? So right now you just have data, but the data is not working for the organization. It's just being collected, and year on year you just have to keep increasing the storage because of the compliance requirement. Gaining fuller is visibility. This is again full stack, which we have already discussed. So most of the organizations, they don't have full stack visibility, which is again a very important concern. So now we come to Op Manager Plus, and don't worry, since I came to Op Manager now, I'm not going to take another 40 minutes. So I just want to give a brief of what the solution is, what it does, what are the features. Every feature that we talked about till now is obviously part of Op Manager Plus. There are a lot more features available. We have IT operation management both on premises and on cloud. Let's start with what are the solutions as part of it. Network device performance is something which is very straightforward. To manage your network devices, routers, switches, all these things. Application performance is something very important. We don't restrict ourselves to any specific application. Someone might have SAP, someone Oracle, someone Huawei, and someone something else. Even if you have a custom application and you want to monitor the codes that are being run behind that application, we can do that. If you have a traditional application, we can monitor the traditional application. If you have a database server, SQL, Postgres, or any other database, we can monitor your database. So the application management performance is a very important module. It can help you with a vast set of features. Traffic analysis. In case you want to do any troubleshooting, you want to do a trace, you want to monitor where are the bottlenecks within your network, all these things can be done using our traffic analysis module. Network config and change management. You can take a backup, automated backup of all your network devices within your environment. And the good thing is, if any of the IT administrator tries to make any change on the device, it will hold the versions of the different changes. So let's say I am in a conference today. One of my colleagues had to make some urgent change. He logs in with his name, makes the change. The system will have two versions, the revision 0, which is the actual version, and revision 1, which this specific user has done. You will also have an option to compare the different configurations and see which part of the configuration has changed and by whom it has been changed. So all these features are part of network config and change management. Firewall log analysis. Especially if you have to do a trace, I'm not sure how many of you have tried it actually. It is a big hassle to do live tracing on an actual firewall because you have to wait, try to recreate the incident and run a lot of commands just to do a trace, capture the trace, go to Wireshark, open the trace in a Wireshark. Only then you will be able to see the actual traces of what's happening in your firewall. With our solution, what you can do is you can integrate with the firewall. We capture all the syslogs of the firewall. We'll tell you if there is any malicious URL being accessed. We'll tell you if there is any configuration changes that are needed. Let's say you have 1,000 policies in your firewall. Only 200 of them are being used. Or there is one policy which is being used regularly, but it's at the bottom. So the firewall has to pass through all the 900 policies just to hit this one policy. All these kind of intelligent recommendations can be made by our solution, and on top of it, you can do a tracing, you can capture all the firewall logs, you can get information on any malicious activity happening in your network through our solution. Storage device monitoring. It can be storages or tape libraries or any vendor. I mean, we have a native integration with a few vendors, and for those vendors, we can monitor the storages, we can monitor the tape libraries, we can monitor virtual machines. All these different types of monitoring is also possible. IP address and switch port mapping. Typically, what we generally do is we do it through a Windows server, but here, since you have one plane of glass to monitor everything, we suggest using our IP address and switch port mapping, which gives you which device is connected to which port, how long it has been connected, how many IPs are being used, what is the status of the switch port. All this information will be given together using our switch port and IP address and switch port mapping solution. As I said, this is a composable solution, composable application. You can pick and choose any of the modules that you want. If you want everything, of course, it's possible using a single product. Both of these are possible. One more thing I wanted to add is we can monitor the websites. We can do synthetic transaction monitoring. Let's say you have an Amazon website. You want to just go click the home page, click the next button which shows a list of laptops. You just want to see if this mechanism is working or not. The moment it stops working, you immediately send the alert to IT manager. This synthetic monitoring is also possible using Off Manager Plus. We have 3 different versions: standard, professional, and edition on the enterprise. Depending on the organization's requirement, you can pick and choose which version you would like to go for. Once you go for a specific version, you can always upgrade to the next version. You can add a few more features depending on your requirement. This part is traditionally same for all management products. You can choose a product, you can keep adding on top of it. And we also support enterprise management, wherein you can have a central server in the head office and probe servers in your branch offices. So that if you want to monitor your equipment in different regions, you don't need to really worry about the central connectivity. Even if you have an intermittent connectivity, the probe will gather all the information and it can be consolidated at a later time whenever you have the network connectivity. This way you don't miss any data, you don't lose any information related, connected to your network devices. Also, from a security point of view, we are compliant to FIPS 142 compliance, which is US government based cyber security compliance, which is very important for any security or operations related software. So with this, I would like to thank you for, and I'm open to questions. If someone would like any clarification, please go ahead.
I would like to know where are the recorded sessions, where do they store the clips?
It is stored in the PAN 360 server itself, so that all the recordings can be stored in that location.
Okay. I want these clips to be deleted once it gets to 6 months.
Yes.
Automatically.
Automatic.
Okay. If the administrator goes to that place and deletes that record. So the reason I was asking is to know if that record, if it's deleted, there's a way I can just recover it.
Take a backup of the instance on a time-to-time basis, and that backup should not be available or accessible to administrators on a day-to-day basis, right? It should be only accessible to the privileged users. Keep taking the backup, let it be there where privileged users only can access it. Even if administrator deletes your request or instance or template or whatever, you can always come back use the backup and put it back. Anything else you would like to add?
There might not be a backup for that. So he didn't say the backup can be taken. So from what you're saying now, the backup can be taken, right?
You can take a backup of
the cloud solution.
For the cloud solution,
you mean for the on-demand version of service?
Yes, or service explores.
So may know like what retrieving it from.
So let's say a request comes into the service expert to delete another request, and you selected the wrong thing. You deleted it from the request log, and the administrator also go back to clear other deleted items, and that one is included.
So I think the administrator has cleared out the error logs, right? So even if the error logs is cleared from the current setup, we can retrieve it from the previous backup. So if the record is present, provided it is present in the previous
what I want to understand is.
So I think the cloud version actually got a backup. The team actually does a backup, and I hope the cloud version has got some scheduled backups that you can do, if I'm not wrong.
Because I haven't seen that. It's something I'd like to.
I think probably we'll confirm with the product team as well, just to be sure, and then we can revert. Since it's environment specific query, we'll double check and make sure it attended first.
Is it limited to database servers you can manage?
No, it's not limited to database servers. So you can anything. If you have a URL which you would like to control the access, you can do that. If you have any cloud application which you want to control, you can do that. Network switches, routers, all these things can be controlled. Our access management is taken care of in the AD solution that we have, but actual logging in to the file server can be taken care, but not the folder permission part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because AD takes care of that part.
Okay.
The AD solution which you do.
So what can you manage? What can your software manage in MySQL?
Okay. You can access the database. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if you want to control what queries people run within the database, even that can be managed. So depending on the type of user, you can set a specific set of queries for them, so that this particular user, if it's a newbie, he can only put in these commands. If there is a senior administrator, then he has the privilege to put in whatever query he wants to run within the database. So even that can be controlled.
Okay, one more question. Just on here, I'm seeing 4 database servers. So what about other popular servers like MongoDB and the rest? Does their solution manage such database?
I'm not sure about MongoDB part, but as long as we can communicate over the protocol and we can control, it's supported. Yeah, it's supported. Okay, it's supported.
It's supported.
It's supported for monitoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supported for.
Okay.
I know that you have been waiting for a long time, so hopefully we'll wrap up soon. And this is the last session. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
And again, cybersecurity trends. These are some things that brings us a notice. It's more of a priority right now, because earlier, everyone used to come to the office, work inside. They don't carry or work from home. But now, after these changes, it makes much more difficult in a security aspect to protect and also to secure it, right? And so ransomware will be continuing as a threat. So these are the topics that we are going to look on the next slides. Jumping over here, so the permanent change in the work culture, as I told. So the work from office was the traditional one, just few years before, and later then it got changed to work from home and work from anywhere, wherever you travel. So you just start to work on it. And remote work, right? You're being hired remotely and you'll be working on it. So, and again, hybrid started, and later on digital workspace is something, growing up, right? So this is one of a very important lesson that we learn about the WannaCry, which has been affected globally. So you could, let me show that. So as you can see here, 230,000 computer systems have been affected, and the global cost would be like around 6 billion euros, which is too much. This is one of an attack. We're just picking one particular attack. And this shows us, how many days that we are, overcoming with the 0 day. You could see that in 21, 2 years before, so it takes around like 212 days in order to identify, just to identify the machine has been affected or not. And to contain, it takes 75 days. It's not that easy. That's too long. And eventually, the data will be, it can be taken anywhere, and it could be sold out, whatever it could be, right? And this is a quick idea of how the ransomware evolved. So you started with the CryptoLocker. The CryptoLocker was the classic one that globally made us understand that it's something that threat. And later on, the WannaCry, and then it grew up. It just modified to Petya, and now we are having the human-operated ransomware. Speaking of human-operated ransomware, something not it works in a particular manner. So it's something like they have been picked out of how the ransomware, the previous WannaCry and things, and then they modified it in other ways that it can easily penetrate into the environment. So it's much more it would be evolving. There will be a lot of changes and a lot of modifications that would make easily affecting the machines. And here are some of the tools. So these are the tools that have been used, and as I mentioned, browser is a very common tool where easily anyone can be attacking it. And then you could also see that there are most of them falls under the free softwares, and that's why we have to be very more keen on using the softwares that we have been using on our machines, workstations, especially the corporate ones. And that's why Endpoint Center helps you to understand what are the softwares installed and which ones you want to allow it and blocklist it or remove it. And the next falls under Windows utility like PowerShell and so on, which comes within the product or the operating system itself. But still, attackers try to make use of it and penetrate into the machines and the environment. And open source softwares again, which is more closely like free software. Just giving you an awareness of how much of the free software itself is being used and of the Windows utility as well, which is most probably comes with the operating system. We should be very more make sure to understand, whether these applications are required or not. If they are not required, it's best that we can shut it down or uninstall it, right? And which that can be done using Endpoint Center, like uninstalling a software or installing any software as well. So the learnings that we found out from the previous, the ransomwares that have been happened quite, till now. So what we understand is, looking from a threat actor's point of view, free tools. So these are the agenda. I'm just going to walk you through on the next screen. So the attack anatomy, how it happens. A threat actor will actually weaponize something. It could be of an email or whatever it is. It could be a script, in any means. And the user, the victim, where they actually literally doesn't validate it and they just open it up, right? And obviously the data will be exposed, and then the person, the attacker, can actually sell it out. Usually the ransom. And this is the single extortion mode, where we have a double extortion mode. The double extortion mode will allow them, not only taking the data, holding it, and getting the money from the company, they also sell it again after the company provides the money. So they sell it out in the dark market, right? They get gained, but the data is lost for the organization. It's a very important one, because data, it can be used at any cost and it can be utilized in any manner, right? And this is one of a cyber kill chain. So we have two, like one is the Lockheed and another one is the Mitron attack. So both these provides us how the attack elevates or escalates. First you will understand about the open tools. Which tool is being used within the organization, which has not been blocklisted or restricted. They understand that they weaponize using that tool. What kind of a formats of files it would allow, and in which manner they can send it across, so that the security systems that is already in place will not detect them. So that's how they weaponize it, and then they deliver it in the proper mode, like the email or using a web page or something like that. They deliver it, and then the victim literally will be executing it, and then it gets breached. That's how it happens. And obviously the attacker will make use of the data, or he can penetrate more into the network. So obviously the machine will be connected one day to the network, right? So they can penetrate and get a lot more data from other computers as well. They breach in a lot. So similar to this, we have the Mitron attack. So some of the most ones are privilege escalations. So in the command and the control. So command and the control, which is not just about taking the data. It is more than infecting more machines from there. So this is again another strategy. So how does endpoint security of ManageEngine plays a vital role here? So back to the quadrant, just to bring back to where I'm going to start and how the solution is going to work. So we have two options, EDR and ransomware. So the unknown vulnerabilities. I'm going to speak about the EDR. So the EDR, we are going to follow this process. This is going to be the workflow on how we are going to bring it up. To be honest, this is still in works, and as everyone knows that it's not an easy thing that we can provide a solution right away, because it's every day a learning. So we're trying to bring out a solution that would solve it and be evolving to solve these problems. However, we have the anti-ransomware available, which I will speak quickly. So speaking of the next-gen analytics, endpoint analytics. So the endpoint management, where I showed about the inventory, the asset management, the policy deployment, the software deployment. So that falls under the traditional management or the endpoint management. The endpoint security takes care of the patches, the vulnerability. What else? We have the BitLocker. So anything of the encryption and the security parts that we have within the unified endpoint management will take care of this endpoint security. And endpoint detection response is what we are working on. Right? Now, here comes the complete the modules that I showed earlier. If you could keenly look into it, the device provisioning. It's kind of a life cycle that you could see. A machine or a device or an endpoint is being provisioned, and you can start deploying the applications and the policies eventually. So you need to apply some basic policies and the asset intelligence. You will find out, you collect the asset information. What are the hardware and software associated? And you also have the remote device management, where you can remote onto the actual machine. right, for any tasks, and then continuous vulnerability assessment. Here comes the security portion. So vulnerability assessment will happen to find out what are the detected known vulnerabilities, and then you have the automated update management. Automate update management falls about the patches. Any of the operating system updates, of the third-party application updates, those will be taken care by here. And the DLP, the data loss prevention, allows you to pick what kind of a files and what kind of a data that you have it within those files, and to apply a policy so that it would not be copied to a flash drive or an external drive, or it cannot be copied or could not be shared to a different application apart from Outlook or any other applications like the trusted applications. And web protection, again back to the previous session, we had about a discussion about the browsers, right? Browser management, so that's where, and the device compliance. So we give you a compliance of it. So there is a compliance report. You could understand, whether the policies and the endpoints are abiding to the set of the policies that we have available or enforced. And the analytics and the reporting, which is going to give you a complete visibility of whatever that we have done, like policies, patches, whether the machines have been accepted and is being installed, what's the status of the machines, and those things you can get it from the analytics and reporting. Clicking you over here. So if you, I'm not sure whether you remember the first session of the IT service management where we spoke of the proactive IT administration, right? So that's a quick pictographical representation, which is basically a reactive administration, which is something that we do. Once it has been affected, or once a mistake has been done, or whatever it has been happened, we are just going to rectify it. But a proactive approach, especially in a security part, will make things a lot more careful. More than it has been to the worst. You are just applying a set of policies or patches so that it can be in a reborn level, not to the worst, right? So here I have a small video that would show you, how this anti-ransomware is going to happen. So we picked up this ransomware file from one of the database that's in the market, and we used it on one of a closed network machine. So as you can see, right. So I'm just going to play it. I'll walk you through. So I'm just logging on to the same the portal that I showed you earlier. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run onto this anti-ransomware. The machines where we have the agents, will detect whether it has any kind of a ransomware affected files. That's the usual process. Now we are going to pick out one of a lab machine that is on a separate network just for our safety. So we have it separate, and we have picked out one of a well-known ransomware file that we are going to run it across. So there were files on a particular folder, so which should be encrypted. So that's the default behavior of this application or this ransomware, right? So sooner you will find those files within the folder that would be unreadable, or you couldn't actually open it up. It will be on a different format. So these files you can pretty much see that, right? Within few seconds, those files will be unreadable. And then it's not only for these specific files; it could be of anything. And immediately you will see that background, the screensaver that shows about the ransom. You have to pay this much, and this is the actual process on how the ransomware works. Now, as a part of anti-ransomware, what are we going to do? Once this has been affected on one of a managed machine of Endpoint Central, we can see that there is an incident recorded over here, which is a recent incident. You could see, how it got triggered, which was it an executable, whatever it is it a script or anything? You get to know about it, and what are the files that have been affected, and these are some things you could also see, what encryptions and it has been gone through and not. So you get a complete history of how it initiated. So not only helping you to understand how it actually happened, we could also get those files back. This is a part of the first step that we are stepping into this part. So that what happens is, once you mark it as a true positive, which is a real incident of a ransomware, once an administrator marks it up, the files will be recovered. So these files will be recovered and will be usable. So when we open the same folder, sooner the files will get back to normal. So if you could recollect the single extortion, the flow that I showed you, the workflow, what happens is the data will be unusable on the machines, and the data will be with the attacker who gains for it. When you have important data, obviously without the data you cannot work on it, right? So this is the first step, as I mentioned. We're just going to save the files, not to pay the ransom, but again, there is a possibility of the double extortion where they can sell it across the data, for which sooner we might, step into that. But this is the first step that we are leaping in further, security aspect, in terms of the unknown quadrant, which is like an unknown thing that is happening, for which we don't have any solution. But yeah. Well, this concludes all the 4 quadrants that we have of the endpoint center and how it covers. 1 minute. That's what will happen. And if you have the security policies and the proper the ports that have been blocked and so on within, on the endpoints that you manage, most likely the data will not go on. But still, there is a possibility. That's what I said. The double extortion will be there as a part of the initiative. What we are stepping in. We are trying to secure the data, not to secure the data, recover the data is what we are doing it right now. In an actual position, just imagine that you don't have the solution. The data is still locked. You can't do anything. The data is lost and you can't proceed working on it. So, as I mentioned, it's an initiative that we have stepped in for, and moving forth, we would bring in the EDR that will give you a better visibility. Prior to this attack, what can be done. If there is going to be any kind of an unintended behavior, you can predict it and you can actually analyze it and you can, probably stop it earlier. It is something like, the EDR is something, it finds out an anomaly in the regular, the machine, how it has to be intended to work. But if it is not happening, for example, I spoke of a file, right? I use it as accessing a file. That is one of an example. There's a lot more. What if like some kind of a file that has not been initiated and is being used by a different chat account or something like that? We would display those as an incident, but as an admin, he needs to validate, is it a legitimate one or not? That is totally about, admins who, who look into that. So again, speaking of, how we are going to be competitive, if that is the question, that's really, even I'm not sure. But I can say you a real incident that happened, with this anti-ransomware. There was one of an organization where we detected, when we actually, literally it was a normal inspection of that environment, when we looked at it and then we detected that there was a ransomware. To be specific, it was Lockbit, and it happened like 1 or 2 months before. So Lockbit was detected and we actually, secured that environment. So this happened, and luckily we could capture that. So again, it depends, whether it has been already infected or not. So organizations, most organizations, we are not sure, the machine could have been infected long back, but it have not been converted as a CNC, a command and control, right? So there are a lot of possibilities. Yes, sir.
Our knowledge on various technology and the products that we have. I'm hoping most of the products here, or almost all the products, are going to help you out. Melanie from Tranter IT here, and she has some few words to say, closing notes. Just announce the rules of the game.
Thank you. Sorry for taking your time. I just want to play a very short game. So I'm going to give 5 random people balloons. So it's just a kind of an expression of how ManageEngine helps us solve problems. When we identify problems, we get emails to solve them, and we squash the problem. So I'm going to be squashing this. Please give a lady on this row, give a guy on this row, give a lady on this row, then you mix it. A lady on this row, a guy on this row. Thank you. A lady on this row. I'm going to say go. And once I say go, you are going to blow your balloon, tie it up, and you sit on it. So once you sit on it, the first person to burst it gets a prize, the second person, so I'm looking for 3 winners. Yes, so my camera guy is going to capture it the moment. John.
Oh yeah, I see. a strange game, and we won't tell you what the gift is, but if you peek in the bag, you'll see what it is. So the good concept of us being here is that we're trying to create that buzzword efficiency, right? So do everything you need to do on your KPIs in a lesser amount of time so we can have a work-life balance and leave the office and go have a life. This can only be achieved by being smart with the kind of automated solutions that you put in your IT department. So, ta-da, ManageEngine, right? So what we demonstrated here was that you need to have visibility, you need to be able to follow a process, you need to be able to tie those ends, and you need to be able to squash your problems before your boss or the board gets wind of it. So that's the whole point of anything that you're monitoring, anything that you are having your eyes on or that you're responsible for. And we're proud, Tranter IT, to have been partners with ManageEngine for 10 years now. It's indeed been a pleasure to grow. Today we had a record amount of attendees at this event. We had, I think, over 230 guests, excluding our team. That's about more like a 40% increase in attendance. Gotta keep it lighthearted. We love our country. It's challenging. Thank God we have solutions to overcome those challenges. Fingers crossed, let's see what they do. So thank you all once again, those of you who still left the room. Thank you to the ManageEngine team. Our facilitators were amazing. I kept peeping in the room, everybody was alert, paying attention, soaking up all the information. We're off to Abuja tomorrow for the second edition in Abuja of this same format of event. So thank you all. Have a safe trip home. Thank you for your participation, your questions. Hey,